Chapter 281 _ I don't know when it started. Suddenly there was a sound of snoring in his arms. Chin-luo actually fell asleep in Hancock's arms. Hancock scratched Chin-luo's nose dotingly and said with a smile, "Chin-luo." After staring at Chin-luo's sleeping face for a while, Hancock said angrily, "Idiot, just such a trick." ... When Chin-luo opened his eyes, there was still a clattering sound in his ears. "It's raining all the time." Grabbed the phone on the bedside table and glanced at the time. It was morning. Oops. Chin-luo jumped up. Drinking is wrong. Chin-luo thought to himself. Why do I drink so much alcohol? Chin-luo patted his head and asked himself this question angrily. Because I'm going to drink with Hancock. Hancock. Chin-luo suddenly woke up. Yes, he drank so much alcohol to drink with Hancock. Hancock watched the movie with him yesterday. What movie did you watch? The name of the movie Chin-luo has been forgotten. Of course, it is not important. But what about Hancock? Chin-luo lifted the quilt and got out of bed, and ran into the living room. The smell of oil that makes people appetizing came from the nose, and there was the sound of food pouring into the oil pan in the ears. Chin-luo walked to the kitchen door and saw that Hancock was wearing cotton slippers. His long, slender and sexy legs were exposed in the air, and he was frying eggs in a slightly loose white shirt. It seems that she is not very good at doing this kind of thing, so when the eggs are put into the pot, the oil splashes all over the place, and she is in a hurry to avoid it. Legs are Hancock's, and the shirt is Chin-luo's. This really isn't something Hancock is good at. The fried eggs are a bit old, and the noodles are a bit lumpy. Compared with Aries fried eggs, it is a world of difference. However, this is Hancock's fried egg. If the Queen's tens of millions of fans know that Hancock, the goddess of coldness in their hearts, gets up early in the morning and wears a man's white shirt to make noodle soup with a plain hand-fried egg, then don't you envy yourself? Miss Hancock's fried eggs are full of acting skills, and there is still huge room for improvement in cooking skills. It looks more comfortable, doesn't it? Chin-luo was looking forward to seeing Hancock's fans in such a state that they couldn't kill themselves. So many people rushed up and scolded themselves, proving what a crazy and enviable life they lived. 2 bowls of noodles, each with a fried egg on top, and a large spoonful of laoganma beef sauce. Chin-luo and Hancock ate their mouths full of oil and enjoyed it. Chin-luo looked at Hancock, pondered for a moment, and asked, "What happened last night?" "What happened?" A faint smile appeared on the corner of Hancock's mouth, and he glanced at Chin-luo, looking infinitely shy, and said, "I asked for it knowingly." Knowingly ask? Chin-luo was a little panicked, and hurriedly explained, "I really don't know what happened. I just remember that the two of us drank together. After drinking, I got a little drunk, and then sat together to watch movies and other things. I really don't know." After finishing speaking, he was worried that Hancock thought he was justifying and shirk responsibility, and quickly added, "But don't worry, I will be responsible for you." "What are you responsible for me?" "We're not." Chin-luo touched the 2 chopsticks in his hand and said, "Isn't that what you think beautiful?" Hancock sneered again and said, "Okay Chin-luo, I always thought you were a gentleman, but I didn't expect you to be such a person. Have you been thinking about taking advantage of me?" No. Chin-luo quickly denied it and said, "I am the kind of upright gentleman you think." "Why not?" Hancock asked. "What?" Chin-luo was stunned. "Why not? Isn't that what you said can't be? How come this girl doesn't play cards according to the routine at all? Do I have it or not? Is it because I'm not good looking? Or is it that I'm not sexy? You don't have a little bit of that kind of thinking about me." Beasts are worse," Hancock scolded angrily, slapping his chopsticks on the table. Quote. Only later did Chin-luo know that nothing really happened last night. He was drunk and Hancock stripped him of his clothes and threw him on the bed. Hancock naturally sleeps in the bed himself, but everyone is half and half, and they don't violate each other. Thinking of the words, non-aggression, Chin-luo looked at Hancock with sorrow. Originally, he wanted to get Hancock drunk to find a chance to infringe. He didn't drink it. But, you are drunk. What a great opportunity. On a bleak rainy night, a comatose and beautiful man can sleep in the same bed within reach, and can even smell each other's breath. Hancock didn't even reach out to himself. Who is she humiliating? What qualifications do you have to accuse yourself of not being interested in her? After eating the noodle soup, Chin-luo diligently washed the bowl. Happy and playful times always pass quickly. In the evening, dinner is very rich. A large pot of stewed beef with potatoes is the main course, a steamed grouper, an egg with garlic sprouts, and a vegetarian fried lettuce dish. There is also the winter melon and sea white soup specially requested by Hancock. Hancock says she's on fire. The autumn rain is Jin, the chill is pressing. How can you get on fire at this time? Chin-luo was deeply puzzled, but didn't think about it. Chin-luo served the dishes, and Hancock had washed the dishes and put them on them. Would you like a drink? Chin-luo asked. Hancock issued lightly, and said, don't give up yet. No, where did you go? The embarrassment on Chin-luo's face disappeared in a flash, and he explained with a serious look, I prepared a bottle of red wine, which should taste good. At this time, shouldn't I light a candle and drink a glass of red wine? Candlelight dinner, Hancock said happily. Great, the picture should be beautiful, why didn't you remind me earlier? We forgot to buy candles today. Hancock and Chin-luo had a candlelight dinner, the exquisite meal in front of them. The wine bottle was filled with red wine, or juice, cola. The romantic atmosphere swept in instantly. After all, life needs a sense of ritual. 2. Chapter 282 Snapped. Chin-luo turned off the chandelier above his head, and there were only 2 white candles on the table shining in the whole room. The lights dimmed, but Hancock's little face became even more delicate. Such is the epiphyllum that blooms in the dark night, it is quiet and beautiful. Chin-luo sat opposite Hancock, raised his glass, and said, come on, to respect our beautiful and lovely Miss Hancock. To our noble Mr. Chin-luo. Honorable character, Chin-luo asked suspiciously. Of course. Hancock is full of praise for Chin-luo's cooking skills, saying that every dish is particularly delicious. Although Hancock is thin, she is a typical carnivore. With such a high-calorie beef stew with potatoes, she could eat 2 bowls in one go. After the 2 bowls went down, the remaining half-pot still felt a sense of, pissed-off, regret. He touched his bulging belly and said, I really want to eat another bowl. Don't worry, I'll eat it tomorrow, Chin-luo said with a smile. No, Hancock shook his head. It's good to indulge once in a while. If you keep eating it, it's not indulgence, but giving up. I ate 2 bowls of shredded beef with potatoes today, and I won't be able to eat a staple food for the next 2 months. The amount of exercise must also be doubled. Otherwise, there will be no way to see people in the future. Quote. You're already very thin, you really don't need to lose weight anymore, Chin-luo said comfortingly. The 2 chatted and drank. Soon, a bottle of red wine was drunk by the 2 of them. The 2 were flushed and drunk. Chin-luo looked at Hancock and said, I have a small request, I hope you can cooperate. What? Hancock's slightly drunk voice, like a flower flying into a lake, caused ripples in Chin-luo's heart. I want to kiss you, but I may not be able to do it alone. Chin-luo looked at Hancock and said softly. Life requires a sense of ritual. With a sumptuous meal, how can there be no candles? With candles, how can there be no bottle of red wine? Drinking erguotu by candlelight is too outrageous, isn't it? I'm afraid that at that time, before the time to say what should be said, or the time to do what should be done, the 2 of them will both get drunk. Lighted candles, drank red wine, and had a wonderful dinner. Do you need a sweet kiss full of thousands of tenderness? Chin Luo felt that his request was not excessive at all. Hancock looked at Chin Luo with an affectionate face and said, "I have helped many people before, beheading evil and evil, and doing justice for heaven. So what? Helping is the foundation of happiness. For those who are really in need, I always don't know how to refuse." Hancock's soft little hands stroked Chin Luo's face and said softly, "You are very kind," Chin Luo said. He stepped forward and kissed the kind woman. When Chin Luo opened his eyes, there was still a sense of unreality like a dream. Hancock was lying beside him, and was sleeping soundly with the quilt rolled up. It has been raining and the atmosphere is quite harmonious. Chin Luo and Hancock slept in the same bed, but covered two quilts. At that moment, Chin Luo hated that there were two quilts in the room. The extra quilt was like the Milky Way drawn by the Queen Mother pulling out the hairpin on her head, separating the cowherd and the weaver girl at the two ends of the heaven and the earth, facing each other across the river, so far away. Chin Luo is going to take a bath. He has seen in the movie that the first thing that a man and a woman living together after getting up is either a man to take a bath or a woman to take a bath. Taking a bath represents some sort of mystical ritual. How can you say that? Yes, life should have a sense of ceremony. Hancock woke up, feeling the quilt, in a state of confusion and sluggishness. Hancock stretched out his hand and stroked the pillow Chin Luo had just laid on, feeling both content and shy in his heart. Hancock admitted that Chin Luo was in her heart. "Since I have another person in my heart, being alone has become extraordinarily lonely." Good. Hancock sighed inwardly, a happy smile on his face. After Hancock got up, he heard the sound and Chin Luo was busy in the kitchen. Hearing the sound of footsteps behind him, Chin Luo looked back at her and said with a smile, "Why don't you sleep for a while? Breakfast will be ready soon." This feeling is like being spoiled by my parents after returning home. I am afraid that I will not sleep well, and I am afraid that I will be hungry. "Sleep well," Hancock replied, his pretty face still blushing after what happened last night. Cough cough. "Wait a moment, I made omelets, ham, fruit salad. By the way, the whole grain bread is already baked. You haven't brushed your teeth yet. Go brush your teeth, just brush your teeth. Just finished. So rich. What kind of sumptuous is this? It's called flashy. Don't look at it as a big table, in fact, it doesn't eat a few bites. It's not as good as your bowl of egg noodles, and it's not as solid as a soy milk fritters." Quote. "That's true," Hancock said in a shallow echo, then turned and ran to the bathroom to wash his face and brush his teeth. "Little fairy," Chin Luo said angrily. "Could it be that she doesn't know at all that she looks so good-looking and has such a cute personality, how much trouble it will bring to men?" Breakfast, of course. During the breakfast, Chin Luo asked Hancock to help a little bit. The kind Hancock didn't know how to reject those who really needed it. At the end of the breakfast, Hancock ran over to wash the dishes by herself, and said that this is what she should do, and it will be implemented according to this plan in the future. One party will cook, and the other party will be responsible for washing the dishes. No one is allowed to be lazy. This is a strong girl. The average girl can't cook, and naturally she can't wash the dishes, because she doesn't like greasy hands. Who likes greasy hands if they don't like you? 5 days later, the New World, the zone of lawlessness, belongs to the vast institution ruled by the underground Dark Kings. Centered on the Great Root, the area formed by expanding to the New World, the Four Seas, and various kingdoms is huge. Today, the strongest overlord in the New World, the first emperor of the Four Emperors, the first Emperor Pirates, has finally attacked him. Perona, the female ghost sword, and Fujitora, the blind swordsman, leading the first Emperor Pirates, the potential is broken. Bamboo, starting from the New World, traverses the Great Root, forcibly occupied the territory that used to belong to the Devouring Force. Originally, in the past, the forces of the underground world, the first Emperor Pirates did not intervene and only devoured Doflamingo's underground forces, but after the incident of Blackbeard's Nami finally made up her mind and planned to divide the interests of the underground world. Undoubtedly, with the intervention of the first Emperor Pirates, the four emperors read the aloof, who originally divided the underground world, as well as the original Dark King News Morgans, and the hidden Master Gibson, are all unhappy. Read the aloof, the force standing behind Morgans is the behemoth of the Revolutionary Army, and the force standing behind the hidden division is Marine. Since, devouring, the first Emperor Pirates, whether it is the four emperors read the aloof, Morgans, and the hidden division, they have quickly divided the area under the rule of Blackbeard, but today, the first Emperor Pirates have to let them spit it out. Chapter 283 The New World, the Red Sea, the territory ruled by Red the Aloof, the super-large island, the continent of eternal life. On this day, there was a vast expanse, a going giant ship, standing in the sky, with blue thunder flashing all over its body, like a giant at sea, followed by countless First Emperor Pirates warships, sailing into the Red Sea. The flag was fluttering, and the heavy pressure led the pirate group around them to be terrified. At the same time, starting from the Eternal Life continent, the first huge pirate group, with the flag of a red bat waving, also slowly collided with the army of the first Emperor Pirates. On this day, it was reported by countless desperate journalists. Emperor Pirates and the four emperors, Red the Aloof, started a war, spread all over the world. At the same time, the Great Root, Sabayati Archipelago, a warship with the flag of the three-legged bird, broke through the deep sea and appeared on the sea level. The same way, the Great Root, the trading island that Sabayati Archipelago is watching over each other, is also being targeted by a bunch of First Emperor Pirates at this moment. This day is destined to not be too calm. You must know that it is crazy that the First Emperor Pirates have not been able to wait for a month to launch a new round of events. In the Red Sea, the sky is separated, and the infinite conqueror, such as 26 ancient beasts, slammed into it. In the sky, Nami and the Red Earl were suspended in suspension, and waves of conquerors slammed into the sky. Red the Aloof, I lead the first Emperor Pirates of the Emperor Shi Huang's order to inform you of the Eternal Life continent, and within a month, spit out all the occupied and devoured sites. Hockey obviously, Nami waved one hand, infinite arrogance, pressing the surrounding sea area, all stagnant. Below, the two armies are ready for battle, and as long as Nami and Red the Aloof don't reach an agreement, the war will start at any time. At this moment, no matter who it is, they all raised their heads and looked at the two stalwart figures in the sky. From the very beginning, the two powerful auras in the sky, like the power of heaven and earth, suppressed them from being able to straighten their waists. Too powerful, is this the imposing manner of Thor Nami? Red the Aloof. Everyone, looking at the separated sky, couldn't help but turn pale and felt a deep powerlessness. In the sky, Earl Red's face was quite ugly, squinting, those emerald red eyes exuded murderous intent, and he made no secret of it. Is his first emperor too arrogant? Nami, with your ability, you can completely stand on your own, why should you submit to him? Some doubts, the Red Earl has experienced the power of the woman in front of him, and the strength is not inferior to him, and even if he is not vigilant, he will be defeated. Because a few years ago, Earl Red had experienced Nami's power, and that time was the moment when he became emperor. Earl Red, I advise you to think about it. This time I'm here, you still have a chance. If the first emperor comes in person next time, you won't have any chance. Nami's face was sullen. To be honest, he somewhat admired the strength of the Red Earl. Remember, you only have 1 month. If you don't spit out Blackbeard's territory, then the first emperor will come to you in person. Maybe at that time, you won't have the chance to fight with me again. Taking a deep look at Earl Red, Nami did not intend to start a war now. After all, according to her thoughts, she just came to inform that the real war would depend on Earl Red's attitude in a month. Solve the problem without blood, so why add more casualties? After speaking, Nami didn't wait for Earl Red to speak, and her figure turned into an electron, slowly disappeared into the sky, and appeared on the destroyer. Go Go back to the first Emperor pirates. Subsequently, the warship was transferred, and the original menacing atmosphere was directly broken. Standing out of thin air, Earl Red looked at the departing warship of the first Emperor pirates. His emerald red eyes flashed with anger, but then he regained his calm. I have to say that now the first Emperor pirates are really soaring. Even if he read the aloof, he has to admit the strength of the first Emperor pirates. 2 of the 4 emperors died in the hands of the first emperor one after another. Based on this record alone, no one dared to question the status of the first emperor as the strongest 4 emperors. Not Redhead, not Whitebeard, not even Marine. It can be said that the individual 4 emperors now want to fight against the first emperor pirates, and they need to think carefully before making up their minds. After all, the chances of losing have exceeded the odds of winning. Moreover, with the expansion of the first Emperor Pirates' territory and filling the sea area of the first Emperor Pirates, the current first Emperor Pirates can be said to be the top giants in the New World. Perhaps only the 2 emperors unite together, possibly against the first Emperor Pirates. Therefore, no matter which force it is now, it takes time to deal with various accidents that will occur in the future. Great Root, Sabayati Archipelago, has long been arguably the most economically prosperous island in the world. Various forces, here, can be said to be intertwined, and most importantly, this is one of the necessary routes for the New World. Today, the entire Sabayati Archipelago, no matter what race or faction, are all trembling and quiet. Just because this morning, the top overlord in the New World, the first Emperor Pirates, under the leadership of Perona, nearly a few hundred first Emperor Pirates troops landed in Sabayati Archipelago. No one dares to ignore this power. So, since this force appeared on the Sabayati Archipelago, everything has changed and it has become quiet. Even the illegal zone is surprisingly calm, and all kinds of burning, killing and looting have disappeared a lot. In this way, for 3 days in a row, everything was fine, and because of this, Sabayati Archipelago returned to the past. Sabayati Archipelago, number 70-79, here, belongs to the site of an underground king. He is Big News Morgans. It can be said that, in addition to the Ministry of Information under the world government, Morgans is the industry leader in this area. The most important thing is that behind Morgans, there is still the boss behind the scenes, a superpower. However, today, this area is full of solemnity, just because of the arrival of a person. The news building, basically half of the world's news, is released from here. It can be said that it has a strong meaning. But now, on the top floor of this building, because of one person, angry at the moment the atmosphere was suppressed to the extreme. I don't know, Lord Perona, what is going on here? Carefully, Morgans looked at the woman sitting on the sofa, trembling with fear. Just looking at this woman made Morgans feel a sense of despair, and even intuitively told him that if the other party wanted to kill him, he only needed a sword. That's right, this woman is Perona, the female ghost sword of the first Emperor Pirates. She is the world's #1 swordsman and can rival the existence of Marine Admiral. Are you the underground king? Big News, Morgans. Holding up the coffee, Perona looked at the weird creature that looked like a big bird in front of her. Yes, it's right here. Very respectful, Morgans lowered his head, and the cold sweat on his forehead couldn't stop coming out. He was afraid that this man came to settle accounts in autumn. I heard that you have a lot of courage. Perona leaned against the sofa with her feet on the desk and said plainly. I do and know where I offended the first Emperor Pirates. When his heart tightened, Morgans shivered with fright. If he was not careful, his life would be at risk. This time, Perona stopped talking, causing the temperature of the entire hall to plummet. And just when Morgans couldn't bear it, a man pushed open the door and walked in. With short flowing golden hair, a scar on the left eye, and a smile on his face, because this person entered silently, the atmosphere that was suppressed to the extreme was directly broken. Obviously, the man who came in has a strong aura and is a strong man. Chapter 284 _ Morgans, you go down. I'll talk to him. Very indifferent, the person who came in sat on the sofa opposite Perona and ordered Morgans. Got it. Morgans breathed a sigh of relief and stepped out. It seems that behind him is your Revolutionary Army, undoubtedly, Revolutionary Army Staff Officer Sabo. It's an honor to meet you, Perona. The momentum is not weak at all. Sabo still kept a smile, and then said, I don't know what a big man like you needs to come here. Our Revolutionary Army does not seem to have a conflict with the First Emperor pirates. You are very interesting. Without caring at all, Perona stood up, finished drinking coffee, and said, I'm just here to inform you of the Revolutionary Army. Within half a month, I will spit out all the occupied and devoured territories. Of course, if you can't be the master, you can just ask Monkey D. Long. Yes, the coffee is good. Quote. After speaking, without waiting for Sabo to answer, Perona just disappeared. For a time, only Sabo was left in the room thinking. Mr. Long's guess is really good. The First Emperor pirates are going to attack the Dark Realm. As early as a few days ago, the actions of the First Emperor pirates had attracted the attention of various major forces. For this reason, the Revolutionary Army also made moves and sent Sabo directly here. Time went back to 4 days ago, and the First Emperor pirates suddenly mobilized the army. This act directly caused all forces to watch. After all, every move of the First Emperor pirates now affects the world. When Nami led the team to the Red Sea, that is, the Four Emperors read the aloof Eternal Life continent, it has attracted worldwide attention. Moreover, the actions of the First Emperor pirates did not bother to hide at all, and made their actions directly and above board. Clearly told people from various forces that the First Emperor pirates were about to intervene in the underground world. Even, there is no need to look for excuses, just because the Blackbeard pirates are the best incision. Therefore, after realizing the purpose of the First Emperor pirates, many forces launched a meeting. The Great Route, Baldigo, the island of white soil, the headquarters of the Revolutionary Army. As before, the top leaders of the Revolutionary Army scattered around the world, all connected through the screen, and appeared in the conference room. Dragon, the First Emperor pirates are getting stronger and stronger now, and they openly intervene in the Dark World. For our Revolutionary Army, the previous efforts have been in vain diaresis. Although we are at peace with the First Emperor pirates now, judging from the expansion of the First Emperor pirates, it will be a great danger to our Revolutionary Army soon. Is it too arrogant for his First Emperor pirates to want us to spit out the devoured territory? There is a lot of discussion. It can be said that these powerful guys are all monsters. If you let one go out, you can shock one party. Morgans, what do you think? After the quarrel, the dragon took the first place and raised his hand to stop the resentment of these monsters. Dragon, with the current power of the First Emperor pirates, our Revolutionary Army is not suitable for confrontation with it, and our main enemy is the world government, not the First Emperor pirates. The most important thing is that this time the First Emperor pirates, the Imperial pirates, are famous, they just occupy the loser's territory. To be honest, Morgans, as the Dark King placed in the underground world by the Revolutionary Army, is not only very bright on the surface, but secretly, there are countless threats. After all, news and discussions have always been controlled by the world government, and if Morgans wants to get a piece of the pie, you can imagine how much pressure he will have to bear. When this force was established, Morgans was endangered more than once. If it were not for the Revolutionary Army, Morgans would never have become one of the underground hegemons, and he also established a news agency. But now, facing the First Emperor pirates, Morgans has too many scruples, far more dangerous than the original. The First Emperor, that madman, can do anything. For the First Emperor pirates, war can be launched at any time. Could it be that we just hand in hand like this? Why not give the First Emperor a face? His First Emperor pirates are too arrogant. How dare he face the Four Emperors Red the Aloof, our Revolutionary Army, and Marine at the same time? Behind Morgans is the Revolutionary Army, and behind the hidden division is Marine. Everyone knows it well, so some people will say that the first Emperor pirates are too arrogant. After all, these three strengths, if taken out alone, can make his first Emperor pirates hurt, not to mention three at the same time. Thousands of miles away, the cadres of the Revolutionary Army were meditating. Secretly observe the Red Sea area, and also observe the movements of Marine. When necessary, I think we can give up. Mr. Long, I want to say a few words. At this time, Koala, who was participating in the meeting, raised her small hand. Say, the dragon nodded, signaling Koala's bold suggestion. Actually, even if the first Emperor pirates did not intervene in the Dark World, they would have been deeply rooted in the hearts of the people. Moreover, the weapons that the first Emperor pirates could create have considerable profits, such as the first Emperor cannon in the battle with Kaido. If we get the formula for our Revolutionary Army, it will help Shonda. Why don't we take this opportunity to make a bigger deal with the first Emperor pirates? Koala's words made the entire conference room silent. Undoubtedly, Koala's words completely diverted everyone's attention. After all, they can get the weapon support of the first Emperor pirates, so those sights of Blackbeard are simply a joke. Koala, your advice is very important. With a solemn face, as the leader of the Revolutionary Army, Long is not like Chin Luo's small vision. When it comes to leaders, Long dares to say second, and no one dares to say first. Because Long's overall view is really too much ahead, being able to build a revolutionary army is enough to show Long's talent as a leader. Diaresis, Sabo, you go to Sabayati Archipelago and wait and see what happens. I need to go to the first Emperor pirates. After Koala's reminder, Long has a general policy in mind. This time, not only must he return Blackbeard's territory, but he must leave no room for it. And as Dragon makes his decision, Marine, on the other hand, also holds a small meeting. Sure enough, as expected by the Revolutionary Army cadres, Marine directly gave up the Blackbeard's territory and did not have any friction with the first Emperor pirates. Marine, the four emperors, and the Revolutionary Army, Blackbeard's territory is at most a loss of some small benefits. In the face of the possibility of losing more benefits, the choices to choose seems very important. It has been a while since the first Emperor pirates wiped out the Blackbeard pirates. The current Shiwang Island, which is also the center of the Shiwang pirates, can be said to be full of people. When you step here, you seem to see the whole world, because as long as there is something in the world, you can see it here. The buildings towering into the clouds, the mixed race of fish and dragons, Jiao Lao Jiao, one by one iconic things, can be said to have swept everything. Bustling, on both sides of the wide street, shops of various races are endless. The first Emperor pirates did not work behind closed doors. Except for the Secret Research Institute, everything opened their doors. The largest amusement park in the world, a place where you can experience the seasons of spring, summer, autumn and winter, the most luxurious bathing center in the world. The same, on this day, was spread all over the world. Mermaid coffee, little human food, all things that are recognized as legends, or even valuable, can be seen everywhere here. In just 2 days, because the first Emperor pirates are equal, safe, and have a lot of fun, there are millions of people who have set foot here. Just thinking about it makes people feel like a fantasy. It can be said that this is already a special economic zone in Shinsei. The most important thing is that the territory of the first Emperor pirates is still expanding. Today, Long led 3 people and stood on the newly born nearby island. Chapter 285 _ This place is more prosperous than the places we rule. Once again shocked, Long stood upright on the street full of people and shops, watching the scene of the harmonious life of various races, and sighed. It is indeed very prosperous, and it is even more shocking than the last time I came here. Amazuna, looking at the scene in front of her, has ripples in her heart. It's hard to imagine that this is the kingdom of the first emperor. Ivankov, the she-male king, sighed again and again. Mr. Long, the marshmallows here are delicious, would you like some? As for the only woman among the four, Koala couldn't bear it anymore and was eating the snacks bought in the store. Let's go. Don't forget the business. With some thoughts, Long Dang walked towards the first emperor's central city. Along the way, what he saw and heard made Long refresh his senses of Qin Luo again and again. An hour later, the first emperor's central city, the palace hall, the dragon sat here. Although I don't know if Shi Huang's character will accept him, or even listen to his own opinions, but for the future of the Revolutionary Army, Long must come here in person to meet the man he doesn't want to see. A beautiful maid, dressed in a maid outfit, left after putting down a cup of bitter tea. It's bitter tea again, this guy's treat is always this one. Looking at the steaming teacup on the table, Long took a sip and shook his head lightly. After a while, from the side of the hall, Nami stepped on crisp high-heeled shoes. Her big white legs were wrapped in black silk, she was wearing a uniform, and her long hair was scattered. Powerful impact. I'm very sorry, Mr. Long, there have been too many things going on with the First Emperor pirates recently, and I hope it's not neglected. To be honest, Nami was a little surprised by the arrival of the dragon, thinking it was for Blackbeard's territory. After all, who was standing behind Morgan's, she couldn't hide it from Nami. The location is generous, even if it is a dragon, Nami is an equal way to greet, and there is no meaning of inferiority. During this time, Nami was really tired, but fortunately, everything was on the right track. Miss Nami, she's still so beautiful. It was rare. In order to promote the transaction between the two sides, Long made a little joke. Nami Vivi was taken aback by Long's praise, and then she smiled and said, Nami is a little flattered to be praised by the leader of the Revolutionary Army. I don't know Mr. Long, what's the matter with the First Emperor, CGAC pirates? Nami asked directly, and she was a little puzzled. After all, strictly speaking, the relationship between the two parties was not very friendly. Our Revolutionary Army wants to negotiate a deal with the First Emperor pirates, but I don't know the First Emperor. The dragon opened his mouth, the meaning could not be more obvious. I'm sorry, Mr. Long, the captain has gone out. There is something you can tell me. I believe most things, I can still decide. Nami apologized to Isho, reached out and brushed the hair from her forehead to her ears. Going out, Long frowned, thinking in his heart. Yes, the captain has been out for several days. If you have anything to do with Mr. Long, you can tell me. If I can't decide, the captain will be notified. Nami reminded the dragon. Our Revolutionary Army has decided to return the Blackbeard's territory to the First Emperor pirates, and we plan to sign a contract with the First Emperor pirates. After speaking, the dragon motioned for Koala to hand the document to Nami. Taking the list in Koala's hand, Nami glanced at it, then frowned, and raised her head in surprise. Mr. Long, do you want to reach a trade with the First Emperor pirates? Putting down the list, Nami hesitated, because the amount reached above was calculated in hundreds of billions, and the items in it, ranging from people's livelihood to weapons, were everything. Originally, Nami had been guessing the purpose of Long coming to the First Emperor pirates in person. Now, she knew that Long coming in person represented great sincerity, which was enough to show that the other party was serious. In fact, Long had to do the same. Because of the special nature of the Revolutionary Army, many countries did not dare to trade directly with the Revolutionary Army, even if it was a deal in the dark, and even more, the weapons possessed by the Revolutionary Army, except for themselves production, and others are purchased in the black market, that is, the underground world. It can be said that the situation of the Revolutionary Army is not as good as imagined, just because the world government is staring at it, and if the transactions of the Revolutionary Army are destroyed a few times, the Revolutionary Army will stagnate, and because the world government is huge, how many other forces dare to trade with the Revolutionary Army? So far, the kingdoms or forces that have made deals with the Revolutionary Army have disappeared without a sound. As long as they are not fools, they can guess that this was done by the world government. It can be said that in the dark, the contest between the Revolutionary Army and the world government is no worse than the Battle of the Emperor, and the danger in it is also piled up with countless bones. Therefore, now the Revolutionary Army urgently wants better resources, and this resource is undoubtedly the First Emperor Pirates. That's why, Long Wei personally went to the First Emperor Pirates and gave enough sincerity, just to facilitate this transaction. As for personal grievances, in Long's eyes, it is far less important than the arrival of the Revolutionary Army. This is also a consideration that a qualified leader should have. Moreover, only the 4 emperors can reach trade with the Revolutionary Army, but looking at the other 4 emperors, only the First Emperor Pirates have the ability to meet the needs of the Revolutionary Army. Long believes that as long as the First Emperor Pirates agree, the Revolutionary Army will usher in a new round of outbreaks. At that time, even if the world government wants to stop it, they must consider the behemoth of the First Emperor Pirates. Among them, the benefits obtained by the Revolutionary Army, whether substantive or one-sided, are unimaginable. Therefore, the dragon is very cautious. Yes, the Revolutionary Army sincerely wants to reach a trade with the First Emperor Pirates. Seriously, Long looked at Nami seriously. Mr. Long, I'm sorry, I can't be the master unilaterally, and I need to ask the captain. Nami frowned, neither agreeing nor rejecting. She had to ask Qin Luo about this matter. She could decide many things by herself, but it didn't mean that Nami could act recklessly. She can distinguish the priority from the secondary, and it is also by virtue of this that Nami occupies a very important position in Qin Luo's heart. Qin Luo never hides the respect that should be given normally. I know, if it is convenient, please notify the First Emperor now and I will talk to him. Long smiled and understood Nami's approach. Nodding, Nami didn't hide it, and took out a small phone bug directly from the murder weapon. This scene made Long and others gasp. Among them, Koala looked at the pair of murder weapons, and then looked at his chest, and couldn't help pouting, not knowing what he was muttering. Chapter 286 Blue. Not long after, the phone worm was connected, and an indifferent voice full of magnetism resounded throughout the hall. Nami, what's the matter? Master, how's your travel? When she answered the phone, Nami didn't report immediately, but instead talked about something else. It's okay. Obviously, the indifferent voice contained a hint of a smile, which made the dragon unable to help but raise an illusion. You're calling just to ask this. What's the matter, tell me. Master, Mr. Long, no, to be precise, the Revolutionary Army wants to reach a trade relationship with the First Emperor Pirates, and, Monkey Dragon, came to the First Emperor Pirates with sincerity, and is now by my side. Nami glanced at Long and the others, and then said it directly without hiding it. And Nami's words made Dragon full of gratitude. After all, Nami was already in the side tilde and helped him. This sentence alone can have a great impact. Trade. On the other end of the phone, the originally indifferent voice became full of ridicule. Yes, the Revolutionary Army wants to buy some supplies from our First Emperor Pirates, down to people's livelihood, up to weapons. The first order is hundreds of billions of Baileys, and there are more later. However, after Nami finished speaking, Qin Luo's voice did not ring from the phone bug. 1 second, 2 seconds, 1 minute, the atmosphere immediately calmed down. For Long, this minute was like a day, a month. Finally, it didn't take long for Qin Luo to speak again. Give him the phone bug. Yes. Standing up and taking the phone bug from Nami's hand, Long said softly, thank you. Dragon's thanks. Nami just showed a smile. After all, Dragon's proposal is also good for the First Emperor Pirates. Dragon, you are more ignorant than I thought. Your cheeks are so thick that I can't believe it. Suddenly, Qin Luo's words once again made the originally relaxed atmosphere completely icy cold. Behind them, the three of Ivankov's faces changed, full of anger. I'm here and I'm ready. Your First Emperor's mouth still stinks. Sitting down, Long didn't get angry, just smiled and counterattacked calmly. Interesting, come and beg me, you can still speak to me in such a tone. There are not many in the world except your dragon. However, you make me very uncomfortable, so go away. Very sneering, Qin Luo's ironic voice came from the phone bug. Don't be in a hurry to refuse. As a leader, you can't solve everything impulsively. You can't do as well as your subordinate, Ms. Nami. Long remained calm, even though his heart was upside down, his face remained the same. Interesting, Dragon, do you think you are qualified to teach me a lesson? This is not a lesson, just a proposal. This time, I am very sincere. If possible, I don't want to say a word to you. The Revolutionary Army and the First Emperor pirates have reached a trade, which is mutually beneficial for both parties. Yes, and you don't have to answer me in such a hurry. I will spend a day in the First Emperor pirates, and then you will tell me your decision. As for the personal grievances between us, looking at the gains and losses between the First Emperor pirates and the Revolutionary Army, it seems very insignificant. Of course, I know what your First Emperor's temper is, so I don't have much expectations. However, I hope you can see this incident from the perspective of being the Emperor of the First Emperor pirates. Long didn't force it. Just after saying these two words, he put down the phone bug and said to Nami, I wonder if Miss Nami can arrange a guide for us. Happy. A few minutes later, Nami looked at the backs of Long and the others gradually disappearing, and picked up the phone bug. Master. Do you have anything to add? Qin Luo said on the phone. Master, what Long said is right. Cooperation between the two parties is mutually beneficial. So why not take advantage of this time to develop the First Emperor pirates? Let the First Emperor pirates become stronger. Dealing with all things of the First Emperor pirates, Nami knew very well what the First Emperor pirates needed. Even though the First Emperor pirates are very strong now, there is still a big gap in the face of the behemoth of the world government. Although it is said that the power of a single person in this world can affect everything, the power of a group cannot be underestimated either. What's more, the First Emperor pirates is a country, and the territory it contains is very huge, far from being comparable to any pirate group, and if you want to govern a country, the civil affairs, development, and power are very complicated. It can be said that the current First Emperor pirates is not just a force, but a kingdom that needs to govern hundreds of millions of people, and the Taoism contained in it is simply beyond the understanding of ordinary people. Maybe only politicians can understand what Long said, and it just so happens that Nami understands, so she wants to facilitate trade between the two sides. Master, the First Emperor pirates are now regarded as a country. Governing it cannot be done in the same way as governing the pirates, and the future development of the First Emperor pirates will be for the whole world. This afternoon, Nami said a lot to Qin Luo, including the gains and losses. And when he heard Nami's example, Qin Luo also thought about it a lot. Haven't you ever seen a pig run before eating pork? In the past life, so many countries, it seems that it cannot be solved by force alone. 0. Qin Luo also knew that the current First Emperor pirates could not be determined by his preferences alone. The current First Emperor pirates is no longer a simple force, but a country, a huge country with endless territory and population. This matter is within your scope, you decide. In the end, after careful consideration, Qin Luo still handed it over to Nami. After all, running a country is really nerve-wracking. The most important thing is that this is not his Qin Luo's domain. As long as he maintains absolute strength and shock, it is enough. Got it, Master. To be honest, Nami breathed a sigh of relief. Then that's it. After speaking, Qin Luo directly hung up the phone bug. The First Emperor's Island, at night, is brightly lit, looking over from the central city of the First Emperor, looking at the endless, a city dotted with stars, very lively, reflected on the boundless sea. Since the completion of the nearby islands, it has been open to the whole world. Now, the number of daily tourists has reached several million, and the economy driven by them has risen like a fountain. Bustling, even in the dark, the current First Emperor pirates are still a sea of people, people of countless races, or in the Mermaid Cafe, looking at these stunners in the sea with blurred eyes. Yes, Fishman Island has been classified as the domain of the First Emperor pirates, and the Whitebeard pirates went into hiding and did not respond at all. 2. Chapter 287 Parks, baths, amusement parks, etc. Countless attractions, all full. The scope of comfort, peace, and equality made the entire First Emperor pirates radiate incomparably dazzling light, and even burned the hearts of all races of the First Emperor pirates. No matter how much the outside world hates and slanders the First Emperor pirates, but in the territory of the First Emperor pirates, everyone who lives here has only one impression of the First Emperor pirates, and that is heaven. There are rumors in the outside world that the Emperor Shihuang of the Shihuang pirates is cruel and ruthless, but here, there is only worship, support, and love. Now, countless people are trying their best to become the army of the First Emperor pirates, even if it is a law enforcement team that patrols daily. It can be said that the current First Emperor pirates are united, because this kind of hard-won life, like poison, has taken their souls, deeply soaked. Of course, now that the First Emperor pirates are changing with each passing day, they have spread all over the world through spies of various forces. Regarding the current situation of the First Emperor pirates, whoever fears the most in the ocean is none other than the world government. That's right, what the world government is most afraid of now is the First Emperor pirates. After all, the other 4 emperors are managed in the form of pirates, but the First Emperor pirates are different. He is managed by a country and can accommodate countless. The people are the most perfect means of governance at present. According to the investigation of the world government, the lives of the First Emperor pirates who now live in the First Emperor pirates only know the First Emperor pirates, but not the world government. It can be said that in the New World, the world government is no longer known except for Marine's prestige. Exist. Undoubtedly, this is terrible news. If the First Emperor pirates are allowed to expand like this, then in the end, the threat will be far greater than any of the 4 emperors. For a long time, the Revolutionary Army has been the most feared by the world government, but now, it is time to add another. So, the world government took action. The world government must curb the development of the First Emperor pirates, otherwise the consequences will be unpredictable, because the changes of the First Emperor pirates every day are really amazing, which has to make the world government vigilant. Half a month has passed since the First Emperor pirates returned the devouring site within a month. Where the Red the Aloof lives, such as Western Castle, is full of nobility. At this moment, in the hall, the lights are bright, and the atmosphere is a little depressing. Looking into the past, 2 men and horses, big-handed, held each other. On the one hand, a woman with light red wavy long hair and a delicate face was sipping the coffee in a calm and relaxed manner, and did not take the head of the Earl Red in her eyes. If Chin Luo was here at this moment, he would definitely recognize this woman, because this woman was Tenryubito, who was almost killed by himself in Marineford and finally saved his life, Shui Lia, a powerful woman Tenryubito. However, what was unexpected was that, as the most noble nobleman in the world, Tenryubito would appear here. As usual, behind this Tenryubito, there are still 3 masked figures. No doubt, this is the mysterious organization, CPO. Although these 3 people didn't exude any breath, the Red Earl, as the host, could clearly feel the swelling power in the 3 people's bodies. So, Tenryubito, did you come to my place to die? High on the throne, Earl Red leaned on the back chair, crossed Erlang's legs, and stared at Shui Lia below with his emerald red pupils in disdain. Tenryubito, to others, is a mountain, but to him, Red the Aloof, it is an ant that can be pinched to death. No, what you Red the Aloof is, everyone knows well. To be honest, your threat is a little bit worse than the Revolutionary Army and the First Emperor pirates. Without changing her face, when Shui Lia mentioned the First Emperor pirates, there was a flash of different emotions in her eyes, both anger and fear. Because since the last Marineford incident, the man who had no pity and cherished Jade, like a shadow, made Sharia extremely uneasy all these years. Don't be angry for now, wait until I finish speaking. Seeing Earl Red's embarrassed expression, Shui Lia said again without rushing, opening her attractive red lips. This time, I'm here to help you on behalf of the world government. The hall was silent, and then an arrogant laughter broke the silence. Ha ha. Headed by, Earl Red seemed to have heard some funny joke, and he stooped forward and backward with a smile on the spot. Help me, your world government to help me. Ha ha. I am sorry, I can't help it. Strong contempt, from the Red Earl's laughter, clearly entered Shui Lia's ears, which made the latter's face look ugly. Give you a minute to get out of my place, or I'll let you die here. The laughter disappeared, and a deep cold breath filled the entire hall, freezing to the core. Remember, I'm not joking. Vivi leaned over. The Red Earl's smile had long since disappeared, and the evil face, at this time, was full of sternness, a murderous intent, and it was even more undisguised. Putting down the coffee, Shui Lia also stared at the Red Earl with cold eyes. For a while, the temperature in the hall plummeted. Kill them for me. After staring at each other for a few seconds, the Red Earl narrowed his eyes slightly and spoke out coldly. In an instant, opposite Shui Lia, a middle-aged man among the three figures rushed down from the high platform, carrying an extremely violent aura, and rushed towards Shui Lia. At the same time, a person behind Sharia also moved. Invisible sound, two fists slammed, accompanied by an endless storm, the entire hall, seats flew around, and the ground directly cracked into slag. Dust splashed all over, and the two figures took a few steps back each, and then both looked at each other violently. Red Earl, if so, then we have not spoken. It is necessary to go down, you must think clearly. Her face returned to calm, and Shui Lia looked at the Red Earl with a flat tone. Interesting, I'd like to hear what you have to say. Earl Red nodded to the person who had shot before, and then looked at Sharia playfully. Shui Lia, on the other hand, looked at the three people sitting not far from Earl Red. If it is not surprising, these four people are the right-hand man of Red the Aloof these years. The three kings, it can be said that when Red the Aloof became the emperor, resounded through the whole sea. As the name suggests, the three kings are the titles of the three strongest men under Red the Aloof, like the three admirals under Qin Luo, the three disasters under Kaido, and the four generals under Bigmom. These titles, strictly speaking, in some respects, are as terrifying as Marine Admiral. Chapter 288 And he just fought against the CPO, and he was evenly divided, so he was undoubtedly one of the three kings. Stone King Botus, said to be the special fruit of Paramesha, the closest to the devil fruit of Logia, has infinite power on the earth. Paramesha stone fruit, this is the ability of the Stone King. When Red the Aloof became the emperor, he once made Jack, the three disasters under Kaido of the beasts, shut up. In addition to the Stone King, there is also the Mirror King Angela. The Mirror King may not be known to the outside world, but as Tenryubito, she knew it long before she came. This Mirror King, the Mirror Man who ate the Mirror fruit, once directly caused Marine Admiral Kizaru to suffer in an unknown battle. Apart from these three kings, there is also the last Ghost King, Saint Sergeant, whose strength is extremely terrifying. So far, the institutions under the world government have not yet determined the specific abilities of this person. It can be said that it is because of these three people that Red the Aloof has secured the position of the four emperors. Otherwise, Red the Aloof alone, no matter how strong he is, will eventually be regarded as a stepping stone. This is the difference between having power and not having power. 26 And when Shui Lia looked at the three kings, the Red Earl on the high seat spoke up. Little girl, tell me what your world government asks me to do. Earl Red is not stupid, and letting Tenryubito come to talk in person is enough to show the importance of this matter. The other party must need his own help, so Earl Red doesn't have a good face. As for helping him, pure nonsense. Do you still need help? Count Red, you are too conceited. After returning to her senses, listening to Earl Red's sarcastic words, Shui Lia mocked directly without giving any face. Believe it or not, I really let you stay here. Impatientness began to appear in Kui Hong's eyes, and Earl Red's mood was gradually smoothed out by Shui Lia. The first Emperor pirates asked you to spit out the territory of the original, devoured, Blackbeard pirates within a month. It's been a few days from now, what are you going to do? Perhaps because she felt the impatience of Earl Red, Shuelia should not push too hard, otherwise she would anger the other party, and she might not be able to get out of here today. Do I need to tell you the world government what I do? Frowning, the Red Earl was still so arrogant. However, regarding the Red Earl's mad words, Shuelia put away her emotions very well, but said again with a blank face, as far as I know, the big news of the Dark King, Morgans, has taken the occupied Blackbeard. The site of the pirates has been returned to the first Emperor pirates. I believe you know the power behind that guy. HMPH, the Revolutionary Army. With an ugly face, the Red Earl looked a little anxious. At the beginning, when he took the underground world, he had suffered 2 strong resistances, which led to him finally having to compromise and let his 2 underground kings. The presence. One is Morgans, and the other is occultist Gibson. In the same way, the Red Earl knew that behind Morgans was the Revolutionary Army, and behind Gibson was Marine, otherwise, Red the Aloof would not have compromised at the beginning. Morgans's return to the site must be because of the Revolutionary Army, and now, the first Emperor pirates have reached a deal with the Revolutionary Army. Therefore, your current status, Earl Red, seems to be a little unstable. Some gritted her teeth. This time she came here, not only because of the ever-changing threat of the first Emperor pirates, but also because not long ago, the investigation learned that the Revolutionary Army had actually caught up with the first Emperor. This line of pirates. In just a few days, the power of the Revolutionary Army uprisings around the world is far greater than before, and the biggest culprit is the first Emperor pirates. Because the current supplies of the Revolutionary Army, such as howitzers, all come from the first Emperor pirates. This had to be taken seriously by the world government. For this reason, it couldn't bear it, and the world government wanted to use a knife to kill people and attack the first Emperor pirates. If I'm not mistaken, that hider, Gibson, is Marine's pawn in the underground world. So, you want to cooperate with me? The Red Earl was not surprised, but very calm. That's a pawn placed by Marine, and we haven't planned to use it yet. Whether it's true or not, Shuelia shrugged. Interesting. You don't need to say it too clearly, everyone understands the implication. So, tell me about your real purpose. The Red Earl sneered, not in the mood to play dumb anymore. Now the first Emperor pirates want you, Red the Aloof, to hand over your territory, which is undoubtedly hitting you in the face. If you hand it over, then your status as the fourth Emperor is just a false name. How will the outside world rumors about you Red the Aloof, I believe you don't need me. Say, you can imagine it. But if you don't pay, you will definitely anger the first Emperor, and at that time, let's not talk about your life, your power alone will be burned to the ground. Analyzing them one by one, brushing her hair, Shuelia took a sip of coffee gracefully. HMPH, what is he the first Emperor? Am I afraid of him? With a look of contempt, the Red Earl didn't take it to heart at all. You are not afraid, but if you fight with the first Emperor pirates, you will only be defeated. Don't doubt this possibility. You should also know in your heart that after BIGMOM, the first Emperor destroyed Kaido of the Beasts, and now the first Emperor pirates the power of the regiment has doubled, and you, Red the Aloof alone, are hard to match, and don't forget, the Revolutionary Army. Quote. So, that's why you came to me, Earl Red said with a cold face. He wasn't stupid. The other party made it clear that he was using him, but even if he knew, he couldn't do anything about it, because the first Emperor pirates were too aggressive. Whether to make or not well, he, the Red Earl, will lose something. In fact, when Nami informed the Red Earl had already made a decision, and that was to fight the first Emperor pirates. He Red the Aloof, with a single person who can be on par with Whitebeard, Golden Lion, and Roger, how could his arrogance allow him to be controlled by others? What's more, his Red Earl didn't think that he would lose without a doubt. It is impossible for any emperor to bow his head because of threats, let alone Red the Aloof. I think you have some misunderstandings about us. I can tell you clearly that this time we are here to add the icing on the cake. Of course, this is also to help ourselves. After all, the first Emperor pirates are already provoking our bottom line. Revolutionary Army. The Red Earl still sneered. That's right, the first Emperor pirates can cooperate with anyone, but not the Revolutionary Army. To admit it directly, there is no need to hide it. How? We cooperate, for you Red Earl, there is no loss, we are only mutually beneficial. With our help, you will have a greater chance of defeating the first Emperor pirates, and we will use your hand. Can also achieve the goal, our goals are the same, so there is no loss for both sides. Quote. Very good proposal, but how could I, Red the Aloof, cooperate with you marine garbage? Chapter 289 _ Don't be so full of words, this is a phone bug to contact me. After you figure it out, contact me again. She held back and almost broke out. Shui Lia was so angry that she left behind a phone bug and waved her sleeves away. She was afraid that if she continued, she would destroy this old, lifeless thing first. Watching the swaying back gradually disappear, the head of the Red Earl had a sullen face, his eyes were very cold. Captain, do you want to stay? The thick nasal sound rang out, and Stone King Batters was ready to move. No need. Raising his hand, the Red Earl didn't bother to do so. If he wanted to keep that Tenryubito, he would have already done it, and as a Tenryubito dared to come here, then the power he brought would definitely not be that many CPOs. Others may not know, but for veteran powerhouses like Red Earl and Whitebeard, they probably know what Tenryubito has and what it is. Tenryubito just now, the Red Count knew that this was the real Tenryubito, far from what was rumored on the surface of the world. Tenryubito was all brainless weak chickens. On the contrary, the strength of this Tenryubito is not bad, and at such a young age, it is undoubtedly the strength of the new generation of Tenryubito. What do you think of Tenryubito's proposal just now? Stopping stormtroopers, the Red Earl turned his attention to the Ghost King among the three kings. Captain, although the other party intends to use us, we can also use them in the same way. The first Emperor pirates are too aggressive. If you don't fight, Captain, then your external reputation will be extremely detrimental to us. But if the Captain takes on the challenge, then compared to the first Emperor pirates, we are indeed a little worse. You mean consent? First, Earl Red hadn't spoken yet, and King Mirror, one of the three kings next to him, couldn't wait to speak. Well, it was very calm, as if nothing could move the man. For this reason, Saint Sigurd squatted down on his face, very flat. Then let's go to war. Seeing that the strongest forces under him were no longer opposed, the Red Earl did not hesitate, and directly made up his mind to use it. You use me, and I use it. This is how the world is. ... Eternal Life Continent. In the town, a luxurious hotel has been reserved, and countless people wearing black dresses, like a triad, directly surrounded the entire hotel. Luxurious and brilliant, all the utensils are basically invaluable. If you take out anything here, it will be at least millions of Baileys. This is the life of the world's aristocrats, lewd and maddened. At this moment, in a closely guarded room, Sharia and the others, who had just returned from the Red Earl, appeared here. Sengoku, how are things going? Diaresis. Video transmission. Sitting on a luxurious silk chair, Shirley is holding a full diamond gold-plated coffee cup, savoring the bitter taste inside, and looking at Sengoku in the aerial picture. That's right, on the other side of the image is Sengoku's office. Lord Sharia Palace, if that lunatic finds out like this, the world will fall into chaos again. His face was a little unsightly. At this moment, Sengoku was sitting behind his desk, looking at the picture in the air, and his mood could be said to be extremely bad. Sengoku, this is our decision. The first Emperor pirates are developing too fast. The most intolerable thing is that they have traded with the Revolutionary Army, which has threatened the world government. Not caring at all about Sengoku's black face like the bottom of a pot, Sharia tapped Erlang's leg and took a sip of coffee. You will regret your decision. Sengoku was a little angry, and his tone was heavy. You don't need to worry about this. You just need to prepare what I need. This is in order. Her eyes began to cool, and Shuelia put down her coffee, her tone also intensified. I will prepare the power rock, a very powerful bomb, but I persuade you not to think too weakly about the First Emperor pirates and the First Emperor. Holding both hands tightly, Sengoku unilaterally hung up the video with a cold face. That stupid bunch. Slamming the table violently, Sengoku's chest heaved violently, and he was a little angry. It's just wishful thinking, some self-righteous worms to use the power rock to defeat that guy. Indignant, Sengoku sullen, even though he knew how terrifying the power rock was, he still wasn't sure. The madmen who are not what they used to be are killed. And the most irritating thing is that Gorosei, 5 elders would let these Tenryubito do their thing. No matter how he and Marshal Kong interpret how powerful they are, they still can't stop those stupid guys. Could it be? After venting his anger, Sengoku snapped to his senses, frowned, and pondered. As for Sharia, Sengoku knew, he knew very well that this Tenryubito was by no means those wastes. On the contrary, she was very capable, because she was the real Tenryubito. This time, it's too weird. Gorosei, 5 elders have to know the seriousness of this incident. Could it be that the First Emperor pirates and the Revolutionary Army have traded, and they plan to risk their own power to lose 800? To destroy the First Emperor pirates. It happened so suddenly and completely without warning, which made Sengoku a little unpredictable. The First Emperor's territory, the central city. Turning sideways, not long after walking, a flower and grass path spread to the end, where, in addition to the cave, there was an ordinary wooden house. On the edge of the cliff, there was a big tree in the sky, rustling, and below, on a big rock, a figure turned his back to her, facing the boundless sea of stars. The flames on his body were beating with each breath. Diaresis, Chin Luo. Putting the document in her hand on the stone table next to her, Nami sat down in an unimpressive manner, picked up the bitter tea on the stone table and poured herself a cup. The golden red flame disappeared, and when he heard the sound, his back turned around, Chin Luo opened his eyes, and a trace of flame disappeared in a flash. What's wrong? Wei Jiaohao was slightly surprised. Chin Luo glanced at Nami, not surprised. Master, I'm here to report 2 things. Nami put down the teacup and sat upright, then watched Chin Luo open her red lips and said, Master, the Revolutionary Army has made 3 trades with our First Emperor's territory, and the amount is about 500 billion Bailey. Okay, you decide these things yourself in the future, as long as you don't give the core things to the other party, say the second thing. Nami didn't care about Chin Luo's interruption, she was obviously used to it, so she spoke again. As the 5th Emperor, Red the Aloof refused to hand over the devouring territory, and from the data analysis, the other party has decided to fight us. With a serious expression, Nami pulled out a piece of information, but Chin Luo didn't read it. Continue. Sipping bitter tea, Chin Luo tapped the stone table with one hand, his face very calm. This time Red the Aloof shot us. There is a shadow of the world government behind it. Chapter 290 Interesting, Marine involved. From the investigation of our secret investigation agency, Marine was not involved. This incident seems to be caused by the Tenryubitos on Mariajoy who were not looking for trouble. Blind your ears and steal a bell. A raccoon dog on a hill. What's the difference? Putting down the teacup, Chin Luo's face became colder. Whether he was Marine, Tenryubito, or the world government, in short, the relationship between the 3 was wearing the same pair of pants. Chin Luo, if the world government is going to attack us with Red the Aloof, then we are in some trouble. With a dignified expression, Nami is afraid of this. After all, if the world government and Red the Aloof join forces, then it would be a bit dangerous to rely on the First Emperor's territory alone. This is not to mention Marine. If you add Marine, then there is no doubt that the First Emperor territory, it is the end. You should already have an idea. Qinluo was not worried at all, even in the face of the world government, he was not afraid. Well, this requires Qinluo to go out. Nami nodded, but she hesitated, because she was afraid that Qinluo would not agree. Looking at Nami's expression, Qinluo probably guessed it. After all, he is not stupid. Although he usually doesn't think, it doesn't mean he is stupid. Qinluo has always been they all pursue absolute power, so some conspiracies are disdainful, but with these years of experience, and now with more important concerns, Qinluo can no longer be unscrupulous. After all, what he wants to protect, a lot of. Tell me about it. Qinluo was expressionless and just took a sip from the teacup. Although he probably guessed why Nami was hesitant, he would not interrupt. Whether or not Red the Aloof is working with the world government, we have to prepare for the worst, and since they can find a partner, we can also find a partner. Continue. Qinluo's expression did not change in the slightest. So just in case, I hope Qinluo can get in touch with Monkey D. Long. After all, we are the same enemy as the Revolutionary Army. After listening to Nami's words, Qinluo gently put down the teacup, stood up, and then turned to look at the white and cloudy scenery overlooking the entire First Emperor's territory. Qinluo, although we and the Revolutionary Army will definitely have disputes in the end, so far, our enemy is still the world government. If Red the Aloof joins forces with the world government, we will suffer heavy losses. Looking at the thin back, Nami was a little anxious. She really knew Qinluo's character too well. In the past, she didn't even have to think about things like this, because Qinluo is not someone who can bow his head at all. If Red the Aloof really cooperated with the world government, then coupled with a coveted marine, the First Emperor's territory is likely to be engulfed. After all, there are secretly no one who wants the First Emperor's territory to disappear. As long as there is an opportunity to fall into the trap, anyone will throw a desperate bet. After all, the First Emperor's territory has monopolized too many people's chances of getting ahead, and those careerists will not miss such a good opportunity. The current territory of the First Emperor can be said to be soaring to the sky. In the New World, or the whole world, who would dare to underestimate it? However, although the First Emperor's territory is a behemoth, no one dares to provoke it, but what if this behemoth is injured? Then some wild dogs and wealthy wolves who are just about to move will not hesitate to fall to the ground and divide this behemoth. This potential danger is the most deadly, because no one knows if it will happen. Shock and awe, in the face of huge interests, will be ruthlessly destroyed. If that time comes, it will be too late to regret. What's more, this world is crazy, and some lives are also sick. Never underestimate any life that lives in a sick world, because if you are not careful, you will be swallowed by its ugly darkness. Left. A breeze blew, and Qinluo's waist-length black hair swayed. Looking at the sea of clouds in front of him, Qinluo was expressionless and thoughtful. For a time, apart from the rustling of leaves, needles could be heard throughout the scene. Qinluo turned around slowly, sat down and said indifferently, "Get on that guy's phone, I'll talk to him." CGAC. Qinluo, you. Covering her mouth, Nami was in disbelief. At the same time, the Great Root, the base of the Revolutionary Army, as usual, the dragon is dealing with various affairs. Since the establishment of diplomatic relations and trade with the First Emperor's territory, he has never been so relaxed. Food, weapons, medicines. These things have greatly alleviated the shortcomings of the Revolutionary Army, which has led to the growth of the Revolutionary Army now. It can be said that the plight of the Revolutionary Army now is much better than before. However, there were several news recently, which made Long fall into contemplation. The meeting between Tenryubito and Red the Aloof was no secret to the First Emperor's territory and the Revolutionary Army. And none of that matters. What matters is the follow-up to the meeting between Red the Aloof and Tenryubito. The information here is too huge. Although it may not happen, it has to make Long vigilant. Frowning in thought, Long looked at the documents on the chopping board, feeling a little nervous. A month ago, the first emperor's territory forced the three major forces to hand over the territory of the Blackbeard pirates, and the Revolutionary Army also got on the line with the first emperor's territory for this purpose, and has already traded twice, the materials for these two times. It can be said that the equipment of the Revolutionary Army has been greatly eased. And the third trade is going to start talking, but now the meeting between Red the Aloof and Tenryubito is not good news, because the message it conveys is too clear. Even, the world government has such a move, it is very likely that the first emperor's territory and the Revolutionary Army have traded, so that the world government has to worry about the behemoth of the first emperor's territory, which is helping the emperor. What puzzled Long the most was why Marine, who was behind the Hyder Gibson, also returned the territory of the Blackbeard pirates. Is it really afraid of Qin Luo, the first emperor? However, according to the investigation, Marine did not participate in this incident, and it was entirely a decision made by Tenryubito himself. But whether or not this is a smoke bomb released by the world government, it is enough to show that Marine is a wild beast that cannot be ignored. It's a little troublesome. Rubbing his forehead, Long thought, judging from the madman's character, if Red the Aloof refused to hand over the territory of the Blackbeard pirates, then the battle of the Emperor would break out again. And the scale of this battle of the Emperor is likely to be far greater than the previous two, because this time Tenryubito, or the shadow of the world government, also participated. Long is worried about is that in the end, whether it is the victory of the first Emperor's territory or the victory of Red the Aloof, it will reflect the development of the current Revolutionary Army. Moreover, if the first Emperor's territory is completely destroyed, or the Red the Aloof's forces are completely destroyed, then the first Emperor and Red the Aloof will become the bear commanders, and the crazy first Emperor will be a nightmare on the sea. The dragon feared most was not war, but the destruction of the forces on both sides. But the first Emperor and Red the Aloof survived, then the sea will always be shrouded in riots, which is inevitable. And just as Long was thinking, a distinctive phone bug on the chopping board rang. Chapter 291 Phone bug rang. VV's face froze. Looking at the phone bug, Long frowned. Without hesitation, he connected directly. In midair, an image was transmitted and reflected in Long's eyes. Dragon. In the picture, the ancient trees are towering and the white clouds are interspersed, like a picture scroll, spreading out. Inside, a man and a woman, especially the man at the head, caused the dragon's eyes to change. First Emperor. Long was very surprised. He had thought that the first Emperor's territory would contact him, but he didn't guess that it would be this, a lunatic. It's really a rare visitor. Your first Emperor would actually take the initiative to contact me. Dragon, I don't want to talk nonsense with you. Based on the information of your Revolutionary Army, you should already know that Tenryubito is in contact with Red the Aloof. I can tell you that Red the Aloof will not return the territory of the Blackbeard pirates, so I will kill him, but the world government is a force to be reckoned with. There is no meaning of nonsense at all. Qin Luo has no expression on his face, and directly explains his intention. So, you have to cooperate with me. Long was also flat. Yes, he directly admitted that Qin Luo didn't hide it. Do you think I'll say yes? I'm not begging you, I'm just telling you, with your cleverness, you know what to do. I just need you to keep doing your thing and keep an eye on Marine, and I'll take care of the rest. In your words, you make me very uncomfortable. Long's face was sullen and his expression was ugly. However, Qin Luo didn't care about the irony of the dragon, and continued to say, the third trade will resume after the war, as long as you can hold back the world government and Marine for 3 days, then I promise you, within 3 years, I will give you 30% cheaper for the transaction between Shi Huang's territory and the Revolutionary Army. As long as the Shi Huang's territory and the Revolutionary Army do not turn against each other, this promise will always be valid. What you say is true. Long originally had an ugly face, but after Qin Luo said the last sentence, he became a little excited on the spot. Every transaction is calculated in hundreds of billions, and the difference of 30% is enough for the Revolutionary Army to save a lot, and many necessary things are only owned by the first Emperor's territory. Are you doubting the promise I made? Qin Luo sarcastically. No, your promise is very heavy, however, the transaction between us is somewhat unequal. Long shook his head. No one on the sea now questioned Qin Luo's promise. The world government is very powerful, far more powerful than you think. Just to hold it back will require the full strength of the Revolutionary Army, and the remaining Marine. I am powerless. Dragon, I'm not stupid. The world government can't take action against me in an all-round way. It has too many things to worry about. At most it will send a few grasshoppers in secret, and Marine, may or may not, and I don't. I believe you Dragon can't do anything. You overestimate me. 3 days, I only need 3 days. If you agree, my previous promise will be valid. If you don't think about it after tonight, then the promise will be voided. At that time, you can only pray that the first emperor's territory can survive. Otherwise, future transactions will all disappear. Quote. Ming people don't speak secretly. I know very well that you won't let go. You know better than me what's going on with your revolutionary army. If you want to go back to the days when you were bumpy, then I can fulfill you at any time and cut us off. Transactions between. Quote. Qin Luo's words directly hit the dragon's heart, which Long had to admit, so his face changed again and again. I don't need tonight, I can give you an answer now. I believe that the first emperor's territory will lose, but I don't believe that you will die so easily. I agree to your conditions. Looking at this crazy figure, Long put away his thoughts and chose to agree. Then, until we don't turn against each other, we are happy to cooperate. Still indifferent, Qin Luo was expressionless, and said again, I will warn you at Marine. It's good, we have a good time working together until we don't turn our backs on each other. Long smiled. Such a straightforward transaction, I have to say, made Long very reassured. The picture disappeared. Long sat in the chair, thought for a while, and dialed a phone, and then an hour later, in a large conference room, an extremely important meeting began. At the same time, in the first emperor's territory, Qin Luo hung up the phone and said to Nami, prepare for war, and let Nami warn Marine that after a month, if Red the Aloof still refuses to return the Blackbeard pirates if you are a group site, then there is no need to exist. During this month, don't disturb me, this mountain, forbid all personnel to come up. Quote. Remember, it's everyone. Got it. Go deal with it. Flying down, Nami jumped directly off the cliff, and Qin Luo, watching her disappear, then lifted up into the sky and appeared on the top of the mountain. His dark eyes looked into the deep space. The battle was about to start. His ability will be greatly improved. Endless brilliance began to shine on Qin Luo's body, and a small flame slowly floated in the air, absorbing the infinite energy hanging from the sky. Ding! The host killed the 4 emperors Kaido and Big Mom, changed the world pattern of One Piece, King of Pirates, and obtained 40,000 heaven points. You can call the heaven characters in the system store. The characters summoned by the heavens are divided into primary, intermediate, and advanced stages. The higher the stage, the stronger the summoned characters. Basic summoning requires 5,000 all-heaven points, 10,000 all-heaven points for intermediate, and 20,000 all-heaven points for advanced. Qin Luo's eyes lit up when he heard it. He was worried that his teammates were not enough. It was really nice to give him a pillow when he fell asleep. Make a primary summon and intermediate summon. Ding! Receive the host's request. Open the altar summon. Congratulations to the host for summoning a member of the Night Raid assassination unit under the Revolutionary Army of, slashing the Red Eyes, Maine. Ellipsis. Congratulations to the host for summoning the Grim Reaper, the leader of the 13th Division and the 10th Division of the Soul Palace Saroraiti Gote, Genius Boy, Hitsugaya Toshiro. As soon as the system's voice fell, 2 dazzling beams of light suddenly erupted from the circular altar in the system space. The beams of light shot straight into the sky, boom. After a minute, the beam of light shattered, and 2 figures appeared in front of Qin Luo. Standing in front of a figure, with long pink hair, a pair of ponytails, pink eyes, a girl in a pale pink dress, holding a gun. Another figure, with silver hair and green eyes, short stature, wearing a Death Tyrant outfit, wearing a green shoulder strap with a metal coat of arms, he is Hitsugaya Toshiro. Captain. The two shouted to Chin-Luo in unison. Apparently, the memories of the summoned heavenly figures were specially arranged by the system. Well, Chin-Luo said happily, the strength of the two should not be underestimated, and they should be able to help him. Main belongs to the primary summons of the gods, and Hitsugaya Toshiro belongs to the intermediate summons of the gods, and his strength is good. Chin-Luo suddenly has expectations for the high-level summons. Conduct the summoning of high-ranking heavenly characters. Ding! Receive the host's request. Open the altar summon. Congratulations to the host for summoning the Glory of the King, Sun Wukong Platinum version, not the mythical version, but even so, the combat power is still very strong. Chin-Luo looked at the three figures in front of him, full of confidence in the Red Earl's war. 2. Chapter 292 New World, Marine Headquarters, is majestic and atmospheric. In the New World, Marine has become a new round of hegemon, and has more qualifications for the right to speak in the New World. Standing on his heels, Marine has achieved it, and the rest is to expand his influence, like the Fifth Emperor, entrenched in the New World, and then slowly figure it out, and this time, the opportunity has come. Lord Gorosei, 5 Elders, do you really want to attack the First Emperor's territory this time? The office of Marshal Marine, Sengoku at this moment, has a heavy face, looking at the image in the air, a little unbelievable. The other end of the image, the Holy Land Mariajoy, where the Gorosei, 5 Elders are located, on the sofa, 5 old people are looking at Sengoku. Sengoku, after the meeting, decided that the First Emperor's territory is no longer suitable for existence. On the sofa, an old man wearing a dark green suit, with a bald head, a mustache, and a rush on his forehead, spoke coldly and was the first to speak. Lord Gorosei, 5 Elders, but this. Sengoku was a little suffocated in his chest. Although he wished to kill Chin-Luo, the First Emperor, but now that Marine was developing, the plan could not keep up with the changes, and things came too suddenly. Sengoku, the First Emperor's territory has passed the bottom line of the world government, and even daring to trade with the Revolutionary Army has threatened the world government. Therefore, we must eradicate this cancer. Gorosei, 5 Elders in a black suit, with curly white hair, a flat hat, and a scar on his left face also spoke. In his words, his tolerance for the First Emperor's territory had already arrived. Limit. But if we start a war with the First Emperor's territory, our Marines are likely to lose both, and this year's operations in the New World may turn to ashes. Somewhat unwilling, in Sengoku's plan, Marine only needs to move slowly and let the Fifth Emperors kill each other. Then Marine can reap the benefits of the fishermen, and will not start a war when necessary, but now, the Gorosei, 5 Elders, decision completely disrupted Sengoku's plans. Sengoku, this is an order. We have reached an agreement with Red the Aloof, who is the Fifth Emperor, and will give him a few helpers, and your mission is to destroy the First Emperor's territory when the First Emperor leaves the Emperor's territory. All living forces, and then put the First Emperor's territory in the hands of the world government. We don't want to fail in this matter, so Marine's deployment must go all out. Okay, go down and prepare. Wait for the opportunity to deal heavy damage to the First Emperor's territory. An old man wearing a white Taoist robe, bald head and flat white eyes, holding a weapon in his hand, his eyes like sword light, made the final decision. The phone bug went out and the picture disappeared, leaving Sengoku alone in the office with a sullen face. Undoubtedly, this incident happened so suddenly that Sengoku was caught off guard. If it is successful, it is fine, but if it fails, the consequences are unimaginable. Moment of pondering, Sengoku dialed the phone bug. An hour later, Sengoku's office was crowded, and all the senior Marines at the headquarters were called over. Get ready, when the First Emperor and Red the Aloof have a war, we Marine, take action against the First Emperor's territory, completely cleanse the First Emperor's power, and destroy the First Emperor's territory. Soon as they settled down, all the Marines didn't know what the Marshal called them, but after waiting for a while, a depth charge made them jump up in shock. Sengoku. Below, Crane was a little surprised and couldn't even believe it. This is the order just issued by the Gorosei, 5 elders. The Holy Land will send forces to help Red the Aloof, who is the 5th Emperor. Then we Marine will attack from both sides to destroy the First Emperor's territory. Sengoku doesn't look good either. Will this matter be too hasty? I know that Tenryubito was sent to the continent of eternal life, but it wouldn't be so easy to reach an agreement. And we want Marine to cooperate with the pirates. Isn't this a bit against justice? She frowned, because the order hit her a bit. The cooperation between the First Emperor's territory and the Revolutionary Army has crossed the bottom line of the world government. Sengoku shook his head, saying that this war was inevitable. The Revolutionary Army. Other agencies will respond. The order given by Gorosei, 5 elders to our Marine is to destroy all the living forces in the First Emperor's territory when the First Emperor and Red the Aloof are at war, and bring the First Emperor's territory under the banner of the world government. This incident came too suddenly and completely disrupted our previous plan. Crane's face was a little unsightly. If it was really involved this time, no matter whether the First Emperor's territory would be destroyed or not, in the end, Marine might suffer a great loss. It's the rubbish again. On the other hand, the old god Garp was outside, disdainfully. What do you guys think? Talk about it. Glancing at Garp, Sengoku looked at the admiral such as Kizaru, and the prospective admiral such as Onagumo, and some vice admiral. Marshal, this war is inevitable. There was vice admiral, looking up and asking. Gorosei, 5 elders have given a clear order to cooperate with Red the Aloof, who is the 5th Emperor, and the CPO, and attack the First Emperor's territory from both sides. Sengoku replied with his eyes unchanged. That being the case, we are now concerned not with this, but with tactics and any surprises the war brings. Cough. Cough. He returned to his senses and agreed, when the war starts, the First Emperor will definitely bring the main force, as well as many troops from the First Emperor's territory, so the defense that stays in the First Emperor's territory is greatly reduced. Strictly speaking, our Marine has an advantage, but don't forget that the First Emperor's territory also has a lot of high-tech, among which, the First Emperor's artillery is the most terrifying. Quote. If that's the case, let's have a good discussion about the war plan. Everyone brainstormed and worked out a sound strategic readiness as soon as possible. As Sengoku and Crane spoke, slowly, the radicals and left-behinds began to express their opinions. Among them, the admirals were silent, especially Kuzan, who put the marine hat directly on his face, breathing steadily, as if he was sleeping, but no one knew that at this moment, Kuzan's heart was full of mixed feelings. Boom, boom. While Sengoku and others were discussing the policy, the outside world was covered with dark clouds, and a blue thunderbolt seemed to break through the speed of light and swept across at a rapid speed, causing the atmosphere to be agitated. The sea rises and falls, sonic booms are generated, and under the dim sky, a figure stands out of thin air. A violent will, towards the entire Marine headquarters, pressured away. Phew! Suddenly, the entire conference room was alarmed, and Sengoku and others took the lead. They walked out of the conference room one after another, climbed into the air, stood at the mouth of the coast, and looked at the woman floating in the air, covered in blue thunder. Thor Nami. Wearing the admiral cape, Kizaru narrowed his eyes, looking at the flickering figure in the air, his heart throbbing. Sengoku, I'm here just to warn you Marines for the captain. If you Marines dare to attack the First Emperor's territory when our king attacks Red the Aloof, no matter how things end, you Marines will pay the price of destruction. Sengoku and his party indifferently, Nami looked contemptuous. After speaking, she turned around without waiting for Sengoku and the others to answer, turned into Thunderbolt, and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Even if Sengoku wanted to keep Nami now, he couldn't do it. Perhaps only Kizaru could catch up with the unparalleled speed on the scene, but Kizaru alone would be useless. Chapter 293 Too arrogant. The radicals, unable to bear Nami's provocation, clamored for war with the first emperor's territory. On the other hand, Sengoku, Crane and the others have a different feeling. At this moment, the other party is still as strong as ever, either by other means, or by pretending to be mysterious. Anyway, on this day, marine executives are in a meeting. Time passed in the blink of an eye, and within a month, the sea boiled again. Sure enough, in the eyes of everyone, the first emperor's territory is not a force that is willing to calm down. This time, for some people, there is no warning that the first emperor's territory has launched a war against a fifth emperor. During this month, the various forces were extremely uneasy, because the first emperor's territory was too crazy and too capable of causing trouble. After Bigmom and Kaido of the Beasts, this is the third battle of the emperor, and every time, it is related to the first emperor's territory, which has to be said to be very shocking, and from the side, the first emperor's territory is really powerful. Moreover, bets have been opened in various regions and underground worlds, and some ambitious 26 companies have also begun to show their fangs, hoping to get some benefits from the battle of the emperor. After all, the world is not peaceful. In the Whitebeard Sea area, since Ace took over the position of captain, it has started to shine. Originally, Whitebeard did not show up for several years, causing many pirates to think that Whitebeard was dead, so they showed their claws and began to boldly plunder Whitebeard. The sight of the pirates. However, half a month ago, the Whitebeard pirates began to recover. Starting from various directions, with just one person, all the previously fallen territories have been resolved. Fire Fist that burns out, the Phoenix that soars, the Diamond Man who is crystal clear. These, one by one, terrifying monsters, carrying new powers, began to testify, belonging to the brilliance of the Whitebeard pirates. At this point, the Whitebeard Sea area once again ruled under that absolute power. Pucci. Liu crossed the sky, burned to the ground, and the terrifying temperature gradually turned into a stream of fire, pouring into a man's body. Compared to before, the current Ace is more mature and stronger. The most striking thing is that the upper body that is exposed is in a mess, and there are all kinds of scars on it. Ace, this is the latest situation. The first emperor's territory is about to start a war again, and this time, it is Red the Aloof who is the fifth emperor, and Dad told us to go back. On a cliff, a black shadow turned into afterglow, jumping among the mountains and mountains, holding a newspaper in his hand, and appeared in front of a fiery figure. I saw this person, with dark blonde hair and a mustache. If there are outsiders here, they will definitely recognize this person. This person is the captain of the 7th team of the Whitebeard Pirates. His strength should not be underestimated. Lakeo, I understand. He took the newspaper, looked at it, and then Ace, who became more mature, narrowed his eyes and said, "Since Dad called us, let's go." The earth exploded, like a rocket, rising from the ground, and a flash of fire disappeared in place in an instant. Ace, wait for me. Looking at the light that could no longer be seen, Lakeo was stunned for a while, then jumped directly off the cliff, like walking in the air, and quickly disappeared in place. After a while, above the sea, a huge pirate ship sailed slowly. Falling from the sky, the flames disappeared, and Ace looked at the companions on the deck, who were having a banquet, with a smile on his face. "Daddy, everyone. I am back." First, Whitebeard, who was already older and filled with various nutritional supplements, looked at Ace with kindness in his eyes. "Dad, I'm back." Although he smiled, there was a worry in Ace's heart. Immediately after him, Lakeo, who had notified Ace earlier, also landed on the deck. And Whitebeard, seeing everyone here, couldn't help but make up his mind. "My children, I have decided to leave the Moby Dick, because this era belongs to you." Kurla laughed. Whitebeard's words were astonishing, and they shocked everyone at the banquet. "Dad, what do you mean?" Marco stood up, a little anxious. "The latest news, the first emperor is going to fight with Red the Aloof. I'm running out of time. Finally, I want to have a good fight. With thoughts in his eyes, Whitebeard looked into the distance with a smile. Dad, we will accompany you. Jozu held the wine bowl with one arm and made a sound. No, this time, I'm going alone. It just so happens that the agreement between me and the first emperor should also be broken. Holding the big bowl, Whitebeard took a few mouthfuls and said comfortably. Dad. Marco and the others were in a hurry, looking at the appearance of Dad. He was going to end the rest of his life, so how could they agree? I know what you are worried about, but I know my own physical condition. It is enough to persist until you are on your own. I, Whitebeard, cannot die of old age, only to die in battle. It is not enough for him to be the first emperor alone. Hockey is unparalleled. Whitebeard waved his hand, and in those sharp eyes, there was arrogance and arrogance. Dad, do you want to fight the first emperor and Red the Aloof alone? Kulala, can't you? Whitebeard laughed. I can't say. I would also like to thank the first emperor. I didn't expect that Blackbeard would still die at his hands. This time, I just solved the matter that I promised him in Marineford. In the heyday, I fought with him. Dad, you don't have to be here either. Time, I disagree. Ace was in a hurry and looked a little excited. Ace, you are now the captain of the Whitebeard Pirates. In the future, don't be so impulsive. If I die at the hands of the first emperor, don't act rashly, although you are now the fifth emperor. But compared with him, it is still a little bit worse. With your talent, as long as you have enough time, you can surpass him and surpass everyone. Quote. Looking at Ace who was angry in front of him, Whitebeard couldn't help but exhort. I can beat him for Dad, said Dad. However, before Ace's words were finished, Whitebeard interrupted with a sullen face and solemnly, Ace, this is my choice. Before I die, I want to have a good fight. Remember, don't stop me. You need to know who you are now. You are the captain of the Whitebeard Pirates, and you are responsible for all your family members. Quote. Originally, Ace was still full of anger, but when he met his father's tired, hopeful, and dim eyes, for some reason, the originally swelled anger disappeared. Filled with powerlessness and loss, Ace clenched his fists tightly and looked at Whitebeard with a firm voice, sonorously and forcefully, I will kill anyone who dares to hurt Dad, for sure. His eyes were red, and he was no longer in the mood to hold a banquet. Ace left the deck and shut himself in the room. Chapter 294 Looking at Ace's disappearing back, Whitebeard sighed softly, and looked at the children who were worried about him. For some reason, he also became worried. However, my time is running out. If I drag on like this, even if I can drag on for a few more years, it is still better to live with death. Instead, it is better to fight happily, even if it is death. Whitebeard's decision undoubtedly made Ace and others unacceptable, because according to Ace and others' point of view, they just want Dad to live well, but according to Whitebeard's point of view, instead of being half dead, it is better to experience the fun of fighting again. So even if you die, you can die happily. The two sides have different views, but all of this is helpless. So, starting from this day, for several days in a row, the entire Whitebeard Pirates were a little dull. There was only one day left until the last time. In the early morning, after the meeting, only the first Emperor Pirates remained in the entire conference room. Fastest update. After preparation, Chin Luo sat on the throne with indifferent eyes, listening to Nami's ugly report. Captain, after investigation, Marine has gathered his troops and the target is us. It appears that our warnings were ignored by Marine. Nami's face was sullen. She only went to warn Marine a few days ago. I didn't expect that those guys would reply so quickly. Captain, if Marine gets involved, we'll be fighting on two fronts, and it's a little bit more difficult. Everyone looked at Chin Luo and felt a pressure. On the Marine side, the Revolutionary Army will hold back some of the forces, so it's not a big problem. As for Red the Aloof, I have a secret weapon, so don't worry, there won't be a big problem. As long as you stick to the First Emperor's territory, I will do it in the shortest possible time. Solve read the aloof within the time limit, and then return to help immediately, so your task is very heavy. Quote. Vivi Ling Mei, Chin Luo looked at Nami and the others and formulated a tactic. Nami, Kaya, Yoroj, Fujitora, Jewelry Bonnie. You stay in the first Emperor's territory and resist Marine. For 3 days at most, I will definitely come back. Chin Luo ordered. Captain, I have a question, diaresis. Suddenly, Nami said. Say. Chin Luo looked at Nami. Who are the 3 of them? The sudden appearance of Sun Wukong, Hitsugaya Toshiro, and Main caused everyone's doubts. Obviously, they had never seen each other before, especially the little girl Main. Is it appropriate for her to join the war? People looked weird. They are the helpers I found, so don't look into it. Chin Luo responded simply without explaining much. After discussing for a while, Chin Luo dismissed everyone directly. At the same time, as the time is getting closer, Marine Headquarters, Sengoku is also ready. As long as the first emperor leaves the starting emperor's territory, then they will launch an attack on the first emperor's territory. This time, the Order of Gorosei, 5 elders can be said to catch Sengoku by surprise, causing his plans to be completely broken. This time, it is best that the first emperor can die, otherwise, it is difficult for Sengoku to imagine how bad the consequences will be. Pushing the door and entering, Crane looked at Sengoku who was rubbing his forehead in the main seat and sighed involuntarily. This time, it can be said that it is necessary to fight without fighting, and Sengoku is completely out of control. Are you all ready? Watching the Crane come in, Sengoku's voice was a little hesitant, because this time, he didn't know how many Marines were buried in the sea. It's ready. He sat down and hesitated. This time the lunatic had better die, otherwise, I can't imagine the consequences. We're already on the verge of hitting. Are those idiots in the Holy Land full of shit? Unable to bear it, Sengoku yelled. Hope it can be successful. He closed his eyes, feeling an unprecedented heaviness in his heart. At the same time, at the headquarters of the Revolutionary Army, Long also issued a series of orders. Mr. Long, everyone is ready. There are many people gathered in the hall, and these are all terminal figures of the Revolutionary Army. According to our observation, those old opponents did not make any moves, just Marine, who seemed to be fighting the first emperor. Attack on the territory. Quote. Turning over the information in his hand, Sabo's words were a little heavy. Tell Bello to keep an eye on the world government's army. As for the capabilities of other world governments, let them take care of them, stop them if they have enough strength, and don't add casualties if they don't. As for Marine, Sabo and Shang, you led some brothers. To stop it, just delay it for 3 days. Got it. Go down and get ready. Eternal Life Continent, everything is ready. I thought that a month ago, the first emperor's territory would start a war, but I didn't expect that the war would be nearly a month late. At present, the forces in the entire sea are basically paying attention to the first emperor's territory. It can be said that every move of the first emperor's territory is in the eyes of some forces, including the Eternal Life Continent. Red the Aloof agreed to cooperate with Tenryubito within a few days since the last time Tenryubito, Afiglu's Fantasy Sharia Palace talked with Red the Aloof. To this end, Tenryubito dispatched 3 mysterious CPOs, that is, the 3 masked people who had been following Shui Lia. If you try to figure it out, Shui Lia's own strength is also very strong. In addition, there is a big killer, that is Power Rock, a terrifying bomb substance. It can be said that with these powers combined with Red the Aloof's own power, unless Chin Luo brings all the heavenly rings, the outcome will be unpredictable. However, Red the Aloof has support, and Chin Luo also has trump cards, so the real winner cannot be determined until he has played it. The second said. At the same time, the dark clouds were densely covered, and the whole sky was torn apart. 2 black clouds, like giant hands covering the sky, swayed billowing smoke, and sailed from the direction of the first emperor's territory and the Eternal Life Continent to the coming arms. Neither side wanted the war to take place on the mainland, therefore, as if they had made a promise, they each marched towards the boundless sea between the two with infinite power. A day later, in the blank sea area where the first emperor's territory sea area and the Red Sea area were handed over, the two sides were at each other's throats, causing the heaven and the earth to separate, and they looked at each other. The vastness is incomparable. Looking at the past, the warships are tall and straight, and the troops on both sides are as many as several 100,000. The strong depressing atmosphere has caused the sea under the feet of both sides to calm down. Whole body golden, a figure, standing on the bow, Jiao Hao Hao, that looks a little weak body, at this moment in the eyes of the whole world, it is so stalwart and unreachable. This person's life experience is all accompanied by iron and blood, and the corpse buried under that person's feet is enough to form an island. The emperor of the first emperor's territory, a ruthless means, like a demon, crushes many people and can't breathe. So far, this man has to be surpassed and feared. He is like a paradox, which is both scary and exciting, because as long as this man is killed, then wealth, power, and women will be destroyed. Everything you need. At this moment, no matter who the whole world is, they all look at this man heavily. Contrary, Red the Aloof also appeared on a pirate ship headed by him, wearing a dark red coat, a pair of blood-red trousers, and holding a black umbrella in his hands, compared to when he was in Marineford, when he was in Chin Luo's. In the eyes, this guy has become younger, and his breath is different from the original. Chapter 295 _ The two of them looked at each other across the bank, and before they knew it, two unparalleled wills began to stir the sky, causing the sky to roar constantly, and countless dark red thunders slashed down. Starting slowly, with a few footsteps, behind the two emperors, terrifying figures began to appear one after another. The appearance of these people, once again, shocked the whole world, because everyone who appeared was in the world. At sea, they are all terrifying figures. That is the female ghost sword Perona in the first emperor's territory. The first emperor Chin Luo is really arrogant. He only brought down one subordinate whose strength is equivalent to that of the emperor. The three figures behind him have an aura that can't be underestimated. So what, you know that Red the Aloof also has the stone god King Boats. The king of ghosts and gods, Saint Scout. Angela, the mirror god king. The first emperor Chin Luo will be proud of his pride and lose in this battle. For some reason, the scene here was once again broadcast to the world, so that some prosperous islands now gather countless people of various identities, all looking at the picture on the screen in amazement. At this moment, Chin Luo's body slowly ascending into the air, Ling Mei looked at the Red the Aloof camp and found that there was no extra power, and sarcastically said, "You immortal, didn't you cooperate with the world government? Why, the world government didn't send dogs to support you." His eyes were low, listening to Chin Luo's sarcastic words. Earl Red snorted coldly, "Young man, don't be too arrogant, otherwise, you will die miserably." The back waves of the Yangtze River pushed the front waves, and the front waves died on the beach. "What's more, you are an old bastard. Do you think that with the support of Tenryubito's group of scumbags, you can survive?" The words were astonishing and extremely mean. Chin Luo's words directly caused the Red Earl to spread his veins and spit fire from his mouth. "You who are as famous as Roger, Golden Lion, and Whitebeard, in my opinion, you are not qualified at all. Since you offended me, then I will let you go down and be buried with Roger and Golden Lion." The eyes are golden red, and a will of landslides and ground cracks, unscrupulous, like the sky, pressing down on the entire sea. His face changed slightly, imperceptibly, and the Red Earl took a step back. Even if he tried his best to stimulate the conqueror, he couldn't face this guy's will. This man's conqueror has actually, reached this point, so close to the original Roger. "I said that young people are too crazy and will die miserably." Kui Hong's eyes flashed a cold light, and Earl Red looked at Chin Luo coldly, full of murderous intent. "Huh." Without warning, almost at the same time, a golden red light and an emerald red light collided across a kilometer in an instant. Deafening, a white arc spread from the two fists, setting off an endless storm. There was a loud noise in the sky, like a meteorite exploding, piercing the eardrums. Qin Luo's eyes were golden red, and he looked at the Red Earl, and in an instant, the whole body burned with burning flames, and the three bodies quickly changed. As for Earl Red, a strange and residual red started to float around his body, like a blood-colored haze, which was terrifying. With a roar in the sky, endless power poured down, like a signal. Everyone on both sides, screaming and shouting, collided directly like a torrent. Taigu, Romance Fortress Pumpkin. Standing on the first emperor, Main controlled the Taigu, and the muzzle was aimed at the incoming enemy. Main's ability is a gun-shaped tegu that converts mental energy into shock waves and has infinite shells. The ability is activated, and the endless black light condenses, absorbing everything, like a deep black hole, revealing a terrifying breath. Combined, the Shuang artillery on Shuang's ship is even more powerful. On the opposite side, Earl Red's subordinates changed their expressions. They had long known about the possession of the Shuang artillery in Shuang's territory. We must not let the first emperor's cannon succeed, otherwise we will suffer heavy losses. Holy Ghost King Sergeant, with gloomy eyes, stared at the whirlpool of endless black light. As long as it's a beam of light, it's impossible to break my defenses. The figure disappeared, and in front of everyone, Mirror God King Angela, disdainfully, was already ready. Go to hell, a swarm of ants. Laughing wildly, Main pressed the start button of the first Emperor cannon. It was visible to the naked eye. The beak of the first Emperor swelled suddenly, twice as large as before, and the jet black beam was much stronger than before. Much stronger. Although I don't know why, the first Emperor cannon can only increase by 2 times at most, but what cannot be changed is the current power of the first Emperor cannon, which is absolutely unimaginable. It can be seen with the naked eye that the pitch-black light beam stirs the atmosphere, forming a pitch-black ripple, like a dazzling abyss, exuding an aura that engulfs everything, rushing towards all hostile forces. If no one stops the Shuang cannon, the Eternal Life continent will suffer heavy losses before it begins, and it will even affect the final result. At this moment, no matter who it is, they all look at this black light. Although the people of the Eternal Life continent are scattered, they are enough to shatter most of them in front of this power. Mirror God. However, just at this critical moment, a strange light suddenly lit up at the front of the Eternal Life continent. I saw a large mirror standing upright, blocking it directly in front of the black light. Boom. The strange sound, the next moment, shocked the whole world. The direction of the black light that was coming from the menacingly changed when it hit the mirror. The sky was broken, the endless black clouds were penetrated, and a ray of sunlight shone down lightly. In the eyes of everyone, the desperate black light directly changed direction in front of the mirror and was sent into the clouds, as if it penetrated the sky. Shocking, for a full 5 seconds, the black light disappeared, and the whole world opened their mouths, staring blankly at the turbulent sky. How is that possible? Unbelievable. Bej and others were a little shocked. The first Emperor cannon was transferred so easily, without even touching a single hair of the opposing forces. Even the sky, Qin Luo and Earl Red stopped fighting. Ha ha. First Emperor, do you think that with the first Emperor cannon, you can contain my power? You think too much. Laughing wildly, Earl Red looked at Qin Luo, his coquettish eyes full of arrogance. Below, Main was also a little stunned. Unexpectedly, it was not good news that the apprenticeship was not good at the beginning. The mirror god King Angela is a mirror man who ate the mirror fruit. His ability should be like a mirror, able to refract all light, and the energy launched by the first Emperor cannon also belongs to the light. The rumor that Kizaru has suffered at the hands of this guy seems to be true. Corona's eyes were cold. Main didn't believe that the opponent's mirror was so resistant. Once again, the ability was activated, the first Emperor cannon, the dark beam, once again separated the sea, like a giant dragon, and blasted towards the mirror god king. Today, she's on the hook. Chapter 296 Come back, I don't know what it means, the mirror god is opposite. The mirror as high as a mountain stood up again, firmly redirecting the beam of light again. Boom. Boom boom. 5 times in a row, the whole world was numb, with black lights crisscrossing each other, and then being blocked again and again. These two people were completely on the bar. You must know that just a single beam of light can make a small island disintegrate, but now, as if you don't want money, such a frenzied bombardment has caused some people, unbalanced in their hearts, to scold Shi Huang's territory. Brutal beast. The first Emperor Canon. Mirror God reverse. Again and again, finally, on the 6th time, things changed. Crack. Knock. A trace of cracks began to appear on the mirror surface, and the Mirror God King is far from being as dull as it was at the beginning. At this moment, his face is pale, his forehead is full of cold sweat, and since then, the corners of his mouth have overflowed blood. Every time, it is equivalent to the power to collapse a small island, even if the King of Mirrors has all rebounded, but that endurance will eventually be incorporated into his body, and he cannot be seen once or twice, but it will affect him 3 or 4 times. And the 5th, 6th, it will hurt him. Clearly, both sides saw this and, as a result, made moves. No one knows how many Shuang cannons that guy can fire, we have to stop it. The Stone God King Baotes, with frowning eyebrows, was a little afraid. If the other party's first emperor's artillery never ends, then this war is no longer necessary to fight. According to the plan, Tenryubito, it's your turn. I don't know when, beside the Ghost and God King, a man shrouded in black robes appeared. It was obvious that the Ghost God King, Sergeant, said to him. Angela. Got it. The Mirror God King activated his ability, and a person appeared in the crowd carrying a mirror, blocking all other people's sight, but the black-robed man just stepped directly into the mirror and disappeared. Watching the CPO dispatched by Tenryubito disappear into the mirror, the King of Ghosts and Gods, Sergeant, issued an order. King of the Mirror God, you still hold the other party to use the first Emperor cannon, and we will stop the others. Immediately afterwards, 3 figures lifted their robes and revealed their faces. The leader was Tenryubito Shuelia, and behind them were 2 CPOs wearing masks. This time, Tenryubito dispatched 3 CPOs. As for why not to send a few more, it was because the world government was already powerless. Be able to enter the CPO, the minimum strength is also quasi-admiral. After counting, several CPOs have already been folded in Qin Luo's hands. These people are not easy to cultivate. It costs 1 and loses 1. It takes time to count, and this time is not short. Whoosh, whoosh. Figures disappeared one after another, headed by the Ghost God King Sergeant, and rose from the sky, as well as the Stone God King bots, 2 CPOs, rushing towards Perona and others from different directions. It seems that these people can't bear it anymore. On the first Emperor, Perona looked at the 4 powerful figures rising from the sky, pulled out the magic sword, and showed a touch of bloodthirsty in her mouth. Choose an opponent of your own. Remember, fight fast. The golden hoop got bigger. Sun Wukong clenched it tightly, the golden tail behind him swayed back and forth, and the pale golden pupils were even more flickering with malice. I heard that among the 3 gods, the King of Ghosts and Gods is the strongest, so I choose him. Perona danced a sword flower and directly chose the strongest enemy. This time, no one earns money from Perona, which seems odd. Stone God King Boats. The tyrannical breath began to spread, and Sun Wukong was a little impatient. The remaining 2, leave it to me. With no expression on his face, Hitsugaya Toshiro brushed his white hair and said coldly. The masters have been picked by you, so we can only play casually. The remaining supernova cadres, lacking in enthusiasm, maliciously targeted other Red the aloof subordinates. Flying down, the splendor fluttered, Hitsugaya Toshiro danced on the sea, with the tip of his toes as the center, an unexpected cold air spread out in all directions without dead ends, and in the blink of an eye, the entire sea was frozen. This isn't Marine Admiral Kuzan's ability. To be honest, Hitsugaya Toshiro's ability surprised many people. Is this the new combat power of the first Emperor pirates? It's actually a person with ice attribute abilities. Just don't know, and Marine Admiral Kuzan's ability, who is stronger? In a sudden scene, everything was frozen, and an endless ice field covered everything. Killed it. Taking the lead, some can't wait, Bej took the army and rushed up. Immediately after that, countless Shiwangdi territorial troops, carrying the invincible aura, also jumped off the warship. Several terrifying auras lifted into the air, and Perona and the others were also looking for their opponents and collided. As the two sides collided, the entire frozen sea surface began to fire, and blood splattered. In addition, with the start of the all-out war here, at the same time, other forces also began to act. All over the world, suddenly, the Revolutionary Army launched an attack, subverting the kingdoms one by one, while the world government sent the army, and other institutions, began to fully resist or destroy the Revolutionary Army, the two sides, in a kind of balance. These have happened countless times, so they are familiar, and there is nothing special about them. If there's a peculiar place, it's Marine. As Qin Luo and the Red Earl collided, the Marine, who had already been prepared, also acted because of the orders of the Gorosei, 5 elders. Mighty, headed by Marine hero Garp, all set off. At the same moment, Marine's actions made it clear to Nami and the others who stayed in the First Emperor's territory. Countless armies are ready to send out. After negotiation, Nami and others decided that the place of battle should be far away from the territory of the First Emperor. At least the battle circle should not take place on the Four Seasons Island. You must know that the mainland of the First Emperor's territory is assembled from countless islands, and Nami's idea is to stop Marine on these marginal islands, otherwise the battle will take place in the center of the First Emperor's territory, then the newly built Four Seasons Island will be turned into ruins again. Therefore, early in the morning, on an island on the edge of the First Emperor's territory, with Nami as the head, most of the army gathered to guard here, waiting for Marine to come to the door automatically. This time, Marine sent Marine heroes, as well as many Vice Admiral, Rear Admiral, etc., but the Revolutionary Army just sent a message: it will help us hold back some strength, and let us solve the rest by ourselves. Come on and die, and this time I'll teach Marine a good lesson. Shu Luo Luo, just right, these weapons can come in handy. A cannon, standing on the harbor, shone with a deep cold breath under the sunlight. 2. Chapter 297 _ With a bang, the whole sky seemed to collapse, and a brilliant light, like fireworks, carrying a long spark, fell into the sky. Brazenly collided, the two fists exploded like a meteorite, and an invisible ripple formed a terrifying impact, overturning the billowing black cloud, forming a chaotic area. Boom, boom. One after another dark red thunder, rendering the entire sky into a light and dark, turned into a storm. A beam of golden red light flashed, followed by a residual red, which came in an instant, accompanied by an invisible storm, an air pressure, rolling down recklessly. The high temperature condensed and the terrifying flames burned. Qin Luo stood in the air, looked at the panting Red Earl opposite, raised his eyebrows, and said coldly, "Old man, you can't do it with just a few tricks, it seems that you are nothing more than that." Hearing Qin Luo's sarcasm, Earl Red narrowed his eyes, and his whole body had already changed into another appearance, a slender body. The entire normal face has become more cruel, the 10 fingers are even more sharp, black and red, from a distance, like a bat, there are even some scarlet stripes on the face. Just by looking at this face, it is very strange. It's a little heavy. This is Earl Red's state at the moment. He didn't expect that the other party would be so difficult to deal with. He has already used this form, but the other party can still keep up with his speed. As for the man in front of him, Earl Red has also investigated. Like himself, he is a person with the ability to eat the zone mythical devil fruit. But judging from the previous confrontation, this man has not used all his strength. He is far stronger than he imagined. Taking a deep breath, Earl Red's eyes were cold. No matter what, this man was going to die. Huh. Without warning, there was a red residue left on the spot, and Earl Red took the lead. The black umbrella in his hand was wrapped in a strong weapon, and he stabbed Qin Luo's head. The sonic boom that pierced the eardrum, Qin Luo's eyes turned, and the figure gradually faded, causing the Red Earl's attack to be thrown into the air. The next moment, the terrifying temperature surged in like ripples, and the countenance of Red changed greatly. He had no choice but to gather some armaments to resist this amazing roast. Observation hockey spread, and suddenly, his body froze, and without thinking about it, the Red Earl squatted down, only to feel a fiery airflow above his head, like a laser jet, causing the atmosphere above his head to emit a whimper. The extremely fast speed seems to slow down at this moment. Leaning on his body, Qin Luo's right fist pierced through, seeing Earl Red dodging, his eyes drooping, turning into elbows, and pressing down. At that moment, the violent force made the Red Earl's scalp explode. As a terrifying powerhouse of the previous era, his combat experience is also extremely rich. The first time, the Red Earl made a resistance action, and the black umbrella in his right hand directly resisted. Deafening, a tearing explosion spread. Close at hand, a pair of nearly golden red, a pair of emerald red eyes, watching each other, exuding a frightening murderous aura. The golden iron horse, the terrifying force erupted, the Red Earl turned into a meteor, fell from the sky, and smashed directly on a desert island. And Qin Luo, like a cannonball, lifted into the air involuntarily, and it was visible to the naked eye that an empty trajectory was pierced through the dark cloud. The falling rocks tumbled, the whole ground was torn apart, and countless cracks spread. Red Earl dripped blood from his mouth, stood in the abyss, raised his head, and accompanied by an explosion, it turned into residual red and rushed into the sky. At the same moment, the sky burst, and a terrifying gun was projected down. Figures flashed one after another, almost sticking to the spear. The Red Earl stared at Qin Luo, the black umbrella in his hand was used as a stick, and swept directly towards Qin Luo who was standing on the target of the gun. Ding! Sparks splashed everywhere. Qin Luo's face was cold, holding a barbed spear in both hands, which blocked the attack of the Red Earl, but the sudden force made Qin Luo's face change slightly. The barbed spear in his hand slammed directly into the chest. Passing through, without hesitation, Qin Luo's right foot, like a long dragon, slammed into Earl Red's chest. And Earl Red turned his left hand and used his elbow to hold Qin Luo firmly, but that force made him snort and slammed into his face. The terrifying power separated the two and docked in midair. Reaching out his hand and wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, Qin Luo took a look, and the cold face turned hideous. Old thing, if you don't find a garbage dump to live your life, if you have to come out and jump around, I will fulfill you today. The tone was solemn, and the terrifying momentum rose. At this moment, the air around Qin Luo let out a whimper. On the opposite side, Earl Red had a gloomy expression on his face, feeling the rising aura, his heart sank involuntarily. Then see what you can do. There was also no good tone, and the Red Earl snorted coldly. Looking for death. Letting go of all his strength, Qin Luo disappeared, the whole person turned into a fire, a sonic boom, and instantly appeared in front of the Red Earl. One kick, carrying a terrifying power, slammed into the Red Earl's head. The body was uncomfortable. For Qin Luo's attack, Earl Red had the confidence to resist it, but the temperature of the flame was a trouble. Without armed defense, it would be difficult to persevere. And if he dragged on like this, his armament would run out sooner or later, and he was dragged to death in the end. With the collision, Earl Red's face flashed a bit of pain. He only felt that his right foot seemed to hit King Kong, and there was a sense of numbness and pain. Moreover, that explosive force is really hard to stop. The figure shot backwards. Obviously, in terms of strength, the Red Earl was a little short, and he fell into the bottom with just one hit. Whoosh, whoosh. Suddenly, the entire sky changed color, and endless flame weapons, chasing after the Red Earl, broke through the air. Looking from a distance, it seems that there is a meteor shower on the horizon, which is extremely beautiful. Continuous explosions, an isolated island, endless dust and gravel, set off the surface, destroying everything recklessly. The hurricane swept wildly, the firelight swayed, Chin-luo appeared in the air, with golden red eyes, staring at the island below that had been torn apart. Suddenly, in the smoke of the explosion in the sky, a residual red flashed, and I saw Earl Red's knee slammed heavily on Chin-luo's stomach, and took Chin-luo to the sky. As I said, young people are too wild and will die. The knee hit Chin-luo's stomach, and the Red Earl's voice was cold, advised. Unfortunately, you are still a little short. The chilling voice sounded, and the Red Earl wanted to leave, but at this moment, he kept grabbing the Red Earl's face with a big hand. Raising his head, the weapon on his stomach dissipated, Chin-luo grinned, his left hand did the same, and slammed into Earl Red's stomach. The dull voice was like banging on steel, and the Red Earl just spilled a trace of blood and groaned, because the Red Earl's stomach was also covered with a thick layer of armament at the moment. Holding his right hand high, the cold umbrella of Ling Ling was about to stab Chin-luo, but at this moment, Earl Red's eyes bulged out, and blood suddenly spewed out of his mouth, which was just bleeding. Fire eruption. With his back arched, it can be clearly seen that a shock wave appeared behind the Red Earl, directly penetrating the black clouds in the sky. Obviously, Chin-luo's punch has a follow-up. Chapter 298 _ The sonic boom occurred, Chin-luo pressed the Red Earl's face, fell from the sky, and slammed the Red Earl on the island. The smoke and dust in the sky and the unparalleled strength caused the new island to turn into rubble, and the surrounding ice fields tore open scary wounds. Falling rocks all over the sky, roaring without a sound. Cough, cough. Covering his sight, a terrifying power rose into the sky, sweeping all around. The Red Earl was standing in the cracked pit, his face gradually grim, and he was staring at Chin-luo. And Chin-luo shook his hand and looked at the Red Earl with contempt, as if looking at a dead man. Reaching out his hand, he lifted the boulder next to him. At this moment, Earl Red wanted to smash Chin-luo's body into tens of thousands of pieces. He didn't even pick up the black umbrella that fell to the ground. Boy, you managed to piss me off. Old man, you are talking too much nonsense. Sen Han was incomparable. Chin-luo suddenly appeared in front of Earl Red, his right fist was burning with raging fire. Boom! A shock wave lifted the surface, forming a silver-white halo, blasting the surroundings into dust. 26. The dark nails penetrated, and Earl Red's right hand was wrapped in abnormal scarlet energy, and firmly grasped Chin-luo's fist. Squinting, Chin-luo began to push the Earl Red back step by step, while the Earl Red, the veins on his forehead jumped, and the abnormally striped neck was even more bulging at the moment. Old guy, your strength is a little small. The ground exploded, the flames swelled violently, and an unimaginable shock wave hit like a mountain. The Red Earl groaned, and his whole body flew out. Whoosh! Invisible afterimage, Chin-luo rushed and appeared in front of Earl Red, with his right foot, swiping across. There was a loud noise, and the atmosphere was whining. The Red Earl forcibly controlled his body, moved sideways, grabbed his left hand fiercely, like a black tiger digging his heart, and tore it towards Chin-luo's waist. Observation hockey, radiated past, the ground collapsed, Chin-luo's knee, just right, wrapped in a strong weapon, topped the Red Earl's savage grasp. Accompanied by a roar, the two retreated, and at the same moment, they turned into afterimages and collided together. From the current point of view, the Red Earl has completely fallen below, except for the speed, everything else is controlled by Chin-kuro. To the bombardment, Earl Red frowned. He had to admit that the man in front of him was very powerful. All of a sudden, 10 flames burst out from within a short distance, the figure changed, and the Red Earl passed by with his superb physical fitness. PFF'd. He vomited blood and splattered. A flaming fist slammed heavily on the Red Earl's chest, his eyes bulged, a trace of anger flashed on the Red Earl's face, and during the pain, his right hand changed into a claw, facing Chin-luo's face, grabbing past. Unmoved, Chin-luo tilted his head, causing the Red Earl's sharp claws to grab from his shoulders all the way to his abdomen, a golden iron horse, a burst of sparks accompanied by blood, and an astonishing pain spread all over Qin Luo's nerves. However, Qin Luo didn't blink, full of madness. He grabbed the Red Earl's claws with both hands and pulled it sharply, his knees slammed into the Red Earl's stomach. The astonishing colic made Count Red's entire face contorted, and blood spurted out of his mouth. And Earl Red was also fierce. He used his forehead as a hammer and slammed into Qin Luo's forehead. Being shaken, Qin Luo's head sank, and he cheered up, and threw the Red Earl out. Shaking his head, even if it was covered by armament, Qin Luo could feel that his forehead was already red and swollen, but under the super high physical fitness, it was obvious to the naked eye that the injury had begun to recover. This is the horror of Zone, even though the Red Earl is also vomiting blood now, but with the passage of time, these injuries are also recovering quickly. And the battle didn't stop. The two of them, like fighting machines, formed a means of attack in every part of their body. Every moment, the sky continued to roar, and then a few drops of scarlet blood fell. Fighting with the Red Earl is not like fighting with Big Mom and Kaido, because the latter is all about speed. That's right, even now that Qin Luo has transformed into three-body, his own speed has been raised to the limit. Only in this way can he be reluctantly suppressed. The Red Earl. Invisible to the naked eye, the entire sky is lit up with brilliant light, like a polar star for a while, a meteor shower for a while, and explosions are generated from time to time, and then an invisible air pressure spreads around, causing the entire sky to be billowing with black clouds. A hole there. Following the violent confrontation between Qin Luo and Earl Red, the ground below was also turned upside down. A terrifying explosion. I saw an island in the entire frozen sea, shaking violently, accompanied by endless falling rocks, two large pits, tearing the surface. The dust dissipated, 3 feet off the ground, and a huge pressure spread around. Black smoke billowed into the sky, and at the very center, there was a monkey king with snow-white body, golden red eyes, and 2 balls of red fire on his feet. Armored Man. Man is the stone god King Boats, but at this moment his face is a little flushed, and he looks at Sun Wukong fiercely with a pair of giant eyes. Damn it, standing on the ground, I'm invincible. In the previous collision, I was not aware of it for a while, and suffered a secret loss, but now standing on the ground, a sense of familiarity with the whole world has been picked up again into the body of the Stone God King. Rubbish. The ground exploded, Sun Wukong appeared above the Stone God King, the stick in his hand, shining with crystal color, fell heavily. With a cold snort, the Stone God King clenched his fist, forming a solid stone pillar, which successfully resisted Sun Wukong's attack. At the same time, the Stone God King stepped on his right foot, and a stone thorn suddenly protruded from the collapsed ground, trying to pierce Sun Wukong's chest. The golden pupils flowed, and Sun Wukong disappeared, avoiding the stone thorns, and appeared beside the Stone God King. Once again, he blasted the atmosphere and swept out with a stick. Electric light flint, ability to use, a stone wall, stubbornly protected the Stone God King. The gravel rolled, and with a blast, Sun Wukong rushed out of the dust and swung a stick again. However, it has no effect. Every time, there is always an obstacle to block the attack for the Stone God King, as if the earth has life and is under the control of the opponent. He couldn't attack for a long time, and he was always blocked, which made Sun Wukong a little irritable. Dead Monkey King, Lao Su is the one who has the ability to eat stone fruit. As long as his feet are on the ground, Lao Su is invincible. The whole ground rolled, like an arm driven. The Stone God King looked at Sun Wukong with cold eyes, the victory in hand. Turtle Shell, watch how your grandpa smashed it. Chapter-281-300. Turtle Shell, see how your grandpa smashes it. With a ferocious face, Sun Wukong no longer resorted to close combat, but rose into the sky. The golden hoop in his hand collided violently, and in an instant, a pillar of optimism that blocked the sun was blocked by a little big Sun Wukong. Caught in his hand. The complexion changed greatly, and the visual impact alone made the Stone God King's hair explode. It slammed down, and before it came, a heavy crushing force made the whole earth begin to crack. Without hard resistance, the body of the Stone God King slowly merged into the ground and disappeared. Then, a terrifying explosion sounded, the entire island shook, countless hills rose up, and abyss spread out. In the huge abyss, the falling rocks rolled, revealing the constantly spraying seawater. Fastest update. Sun Wukong's golden pupils opened, the golden cudgel became smaller and held in his hand, observation hockey radiated indiscriminately, trying to find out the whereabouts of the Stone God King, because in the attack just now, the Stone God King completely escaped. The ability of the other party is difficult to deal with, and it can integrate into the earth freely. Boom, boom. Suddenly, the entire island swayed, countless rocks surging, and finally merged in one place. A large shadow began to block the line of sight, and slowly rose from the ground. Turning around, Sun Wukong's face changed. Looking at the giant who was constantly rising, a trace of surprise flashed in his eyes. The land collapsed, and the whole island seemed to be alive, turning into a terrifying stone giant. The unimaginable height was just like the original San Yuan, and it was extremely heavy. Undoubtedly, the situation here is completely exposed to the whole world. Just looking at that height makes countless people look away. This is simply not something that can be achieved by human beings, it is the power of God. Standing out of thin air, Sun Wukong is holding a golden hoop rod. Compared with this stone giant, he is as tiny and pitiful as hair. Dead Monkey King, watch me turn over to suppress you. Like a god, the huge roaring sound was spit out from the mouth of the stone giant and exploded the sky. The airflow turned, and a giant hand covering the clouds, carrying the power of the sky and the earth, fell towards Sun Wukong. Do you think you are Tathagata Buddha, courting death? Sun Wukong was angry. Wow, diaresis. With a roar, black smoke billowed into the sky. At this moment Sun Wukong, as if demonized, transformed into a monstrous ape, with red eyes, holding a golden hoop the size of a room pillar in his hand. His face was hideous, and he rose into the sky. A stick of the sky tilted, roaring and standing, the golden hoop in his hand turned into a mountain range, and he swept across the giant hand that covered the sky. Boom! Terrifying explosions, countless meteors, carrying gorgeous tails, blasted towards countless ice fields. For a time, the natural disaster was overturned, and countless fragments of rock were turned into cannonballs, forming ice arrows, which affected countless warring people. Ferocious and sharp teeth flashed out of thin air, and Sun Wukong appeared in front of the giant stone. Grandpa smashed you to death today. Furious, the golden cudgel in his hand slammed down on the giant's head. The rock peeled off and the head smashed, forming a terrifying shock wave that rushed all around. Undoubtedly, the Stone God King has become a giant, and he has strength, but the speed is slow, just like the Pika under Doflamingo, but the Stone God King is much stronger than the original Pika. See where you run away. Sun Wukong's blood-red eyes the size of a lantern stared at the stone giant's chin. Where is the Stone God King? Suddenly, you chase after me. Sun Wukong did not hesitate, the golden hoop in his hand smashed down. The Stone God King, with an ugly face, disappeared directly and quickly under his chin, and using his abilities, another giant hand covering the sky and the earth reached out to Sun Wukong. But now, Sun Wukong seems to be crazy, very irritable, chasing after the Stone God King. The stick in his hand is fatal, banging. The battle here is undoubtedly fierce, awakening countless viewers, and the whole world has once again seen the powerful strength of the five emperors. Right-hand man, just monsters. Away from the battle center, on the edge of the sky, the battle here is equally frightening. The ground was in shambles, a mountain was cut flat, and a ravine spread to the end, as if to cut the entire frozen sea. Standing in the dust, wiping away the stinging pain on her face, Perona narrowed her eyes, looked at the blood on her fingertips, and swept her chest with a killing intent. The first swordsman, Perona, that's all. Standing on the top of a tree, the most powerful of the three god kings, the most powerful ghost king, Saint Sergeant, raised his hand and glanced at Perona sarcastically. For the title of Perona, there are many in the sea, such as the Great Swordsman, the Sword God, and the Swordsman of the Gods. Different people use different titles, but these titles all explain the power of Perona. Obviously, in the collision just now, Perona suffered a loss. The opponent's ability is very strange, as if he can control everything. In the previous battle, he ignored it for a while and suffered a secret loss. This made Perona vigilant. Is this the fruit of psychic power? Can you control everything with your own will? As expected of the most powerful ghost and god king among the three god kings, you are qualified to have my mother hacked to death. The magic sword in his hand turned. Perona's eyes were cold, and she smiled lightly. You are very arrogant. His face sank, and the ghost king, Saint Sergeant, looked at Perona. Paramesha mind power fruit. It's a little troublesome, but it's still within the tolerance range. The terrifying sword intent began to tear around, and Perona's whole body began to change. And the demon, Perona began to exert all her strength. In front of the swordsman's intuition, any attack is garbage, which is Perona's confidence. The boundless sword intent formed a terrifying wave, drowning the surroundings, and countless things began to transform into a pair of sharp weapons, guarding Perona. At this moment, Perona is the master of the sword. The huge threat made the king of ghosts and gods' scalp explode. When his eyes moved, an invisible force turned into a sharp blade and shot at Perona's neck. This was the attack of the ghost and god king, the fruit of psychic power, and the use of psychic power was silent. As the king of ghosts and gods made a soundless shot, Perona opened the sword pupil formed by two small swords, tilted her head in the nick of time, and a terrifying explosion behind her directly formed a hurricane, and the corner of Perona's clothes swayed. Seeing that his attack was easily resolved, the king of ghosts and gods became solemn. You must know that his attack, except for those with superb observation hockey, was difficult to detect, but it was easy to see the other party's movements. Could this be the intuition of the swordsman? A foreboding ability more difficult than observation hockey. Zhao's Perona at the moment seems to have no feelings. He is a madman, and the madman is him. Raising his hand, the sword chi was sharp, and he continued to breathe. However, with the continuous roar, these long swords stopped 1 meter away from the Ghost King's body, as if they encountered some resistance, making it difficult for them to advance. If you feel it carefully, you will find an invisible light curtain, which is blocking the King of Ghosts and Gods at this time. However, at this moment, a pair of pupils that were not human-like had already appeared in front of the Ghost King. Even through the screen of thought power, the Ghost King felt a sharp cutting force. Sword energy is vertical and horizontal. Perona's right hand is like a long sword, facing the Ghost King, and he slashes sharply. In an instant, the atmosphere breaks, and the Ghost King's face changes greatly on the spot. There was a tingling pain in the brain, and a trace of blood overflowed from the mouth of the Ghost King. Without thinking about it, he soared up and directly distanced himself from Perona. Chapter 300 Suspended in the air, the King of Ghosts and Gods looked ugly. He didn't expect that the opponent's strength was so strong that he could not only resist his own thoughts, but also hurt himself. Sure enough, the swordsmen who reached the top were all freaks. The whole earth, visible to the naked eye, turned into a sword field. Perona stood in the center with bare hands, and the whole person was very sharp. At this moment, Perona, like the awakened Paramesha, can actually assimilate the surrounding things and form a means of attack. The two are different and the same, but the final quality is difficult to describe. Looking up, looking at the Ghost King standing out of thin air, Perona's cold sword pupils flashed a sneer. Compared with the past, Perona's female ghost sword performance has made a qualitative leap, and it has become more and more perfect. With the current combat power, even if it is the 5 emperors, without paying a little price, it is impossible to let Perona be defeated. And the King of Ghosts and Gods, no one knows the specific combat power. Yan. As if drawing a knife, a dazzling white light stirred the atmosphere, swept away towards the ghost and god king, and along the way, the huge roar shattered the eardrums. Squinting, the king of ghosts and gods looked at the brilliant white light rising from the ground. His hands seemed to be wrapped in some strange ability. He pressed down suddenly, and the air in front of him changed directly, forming a translucent light curtain, which successfully blocked the Pirona's attack. Out of thin air, Pirona appeared beside the Ghost King, raised her palm, and slashed down again. The next moment, the entire sky was torn apart, and a violent storm swept through, making people unable to help close their eyes, because the light was too strong. Creepy, a huge crisis shrouded the soul of the Ghost King. Without even thinking about it, the ability activated, the whole atmosphere flashed, and the Ghost King, like a ray of light, formed a line of refracting rays of light, blocking his side. Silently, the attacks of the two actually merged. However, at this moment, the Ghost King was not feeling well. He was panting and his face turned pale. Probing and grabbing at Pirona from the air, in an instant, Pirona felt the surrounding, an infinite force, crushing it. Heavy as a mountain. With a cold snort, Pirona was unmoved, and around her body, like white lotuses blooming, countless transparent sharp blades formed a storm, spinning at high speed. However, just when Pirona was dismissive, her face suddenly changed, and for some reason, her whole body slammed into the ground like a streamer. Suddenly, the ice sheet cracked, and countless seawater gushed out. Sword chi was vertical and horizontal. Pirona climbed into the air, wiped the blood from her mouth, a little dignified, because before, she felt that the whole atmosphere had formed a giant hand, and slapped it directly at her domineering. That kind of power made her jealous. However, just like this, it successfully aroused Pirona's desire to hack the opponent to death. The sword light flowed, and without hesitation, Pirona rushed towards the Ghost King like a cannonball. Compared to these natural disaster-like personal battles, there is one battle, but it is full of drama. Even if it was completely on the bar, Maine stood on the first emperor, and stared at the mirror god King Angela, as if she didn't have the first emperor's cannon to kill the opponent. She was very persistent. See how many shots you can stop. Another dark energy beam crossed the ice field, instantly causing the pale-faced Ghost King to vomit blood. Several times before and after, the first Emperor cannon has been fired 10 times. Each time, in different directions, the King of Ghosts and Gods gritted his teeth and used his abilities to resolve it. However, the impact of each counterattack poured into the body of the Mirror God King, so that the Mirror God King has suffered internal injuries and spurted blood several times. That's fine, but this battle has made the Mirror God King full of grievances. He is simply moving the target, and he has to take the initiative to rush to it. If it goes on like this, if Maine is allowed to fight, he may not really make a move, and the Mirror God King will be farting. And this time, it was the 11th launch of Maine. Gradually, Maine became more and more proficient with it, and even fell in love with this feeling. One person on the first Emperor was playing a lot. Don't look at the fact that Maine has the upper hand now, but the physical strength consumed is equally huge, but compared to the current embarrassed Mirror God King, it is much easier. This is still the ability restraint of the Mirror God King. If there is no Mirror God King, the Eternal Life continent will undoubtedly lose in this war. This is why there is no perfect ability. After all, no matter how strong the ability is, there will be restraint methods. But when Maine was enjoying this kind of pleasure, she didn't know that the fatal danger was already close at hand. Silently, a figure, as if walking between reality and reality, slowly appeared behind Maine. A dagger, shining with a dark red color, aimed at Maine's heart. But Maine, who was bombarding the Mirror God King, didn't notice it at all. However, at the level of a powerhouse like Maine, the body's instinctive vigilance sounded the alarm at this moment. PFF'd. The sound that penetrated the flesh, the half-meter-long dagger sunk into Maine's left shoulder, almost hitting her heart. Maine frowned, ran back abruptly, rolled a few times on the ice sheet, and finally smashed into the crowd, dyeing the ice surface red. The distance, Napoleon, who was arranged by Perona to protect Maine, changed his face and hurriedly flew to Maine's side. PFF'd. Falling to the ground, Maine kept vomiting blood, her face was extremely pale, and she was severely injured by the blow just now. Are you all right? Napoleon got close, looked at Maine's pale face, and panicked. If Perona knew that he didn't protect the mobile battery of Maine, he must not slap himself. It's a bit of a surprise to me that it escaped. CPO who landed easily and succeeded in the sneak attack appeared not far from Maine. CPO. Furious, Napoleon stood guard in front of Maine, alert to the person in front of him. Mijos from BIGMOM, interesting. With a calm voice, the CPO stepped forward. Don't think about getting close, go to hell. Two sword lights crossed, and Napoleon attacked, but the result was unbelievable, because Napoleon's attack directly passed through the CPO's body and slammed into the ice field. On the top, there was quite a storm of ice chips. The old man is a person who has the ability to eat the fruit of reality and reality. He can transform between reality and reality. With this kind of attack, you want to hurt me. You don't take me too seriously. Without any obstruction, the reality appeared in front of Napoleon, and with one kick, it blasted out directly, and with the spark of the King Kong, Napoleon flew out directly. Without Napoleon's checks and balances, Maine was completely exposed at the feet of the CPO. The pungent bloody smell, the red-stained ice surface, Maine covered her left shoulder, bleeding constantly from her mouth, and looked at the virtual and real person with a pale face.